Chapter 429. After I throw everyone out, if you haven't licked it, don't blame me for being rude. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 8 people coldly, leaped into the air, landed on the 9th floor, walked to a stone door and kicked it open. Inside was a man who looked about 25 or 26 years old. At this moment, his eyes were full of fear. Am I going to do it, or do you want to get down by yourself? Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly. The man stammered. His face was full of horror, and he could not say a word for a long time. It seems that I have to do it. There was a cold flash in Qin Feiyang's eyes, and he strode into the alchemy room. No. I'll go down by myself. The man's eyes trembled and he hurriedly ran out of the alchemy room, flying to the bottom of the courtyard. Qin Feiyang shouted, I told you to get down. Didn't you hear me? Hearing this, the man was immediately furious and shouted, Don't go too far. So what if I bully you? Qin Feiyang sneered. If he did not have the strength to resist today, he did not know how he would be humiliated by these people. Therefore, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, he would not show any mercy. It's best to have a bottom line when doing things. The man said gloomily. You even splashed the water to wash my feet. What right do you have to talk about a bottom line with me? Are you not going to get lost? Fine, I'll let you have a taste of living a life worse than death. Qin Feiyang's body shook. The red sword aura roared, and the shocking sharpness swept across the sky. Seeing this, the man could not help but turn pale. I'll get lost. He quickly returned to the 9th floor and rolled down the stairs. The person just now, come out immediately, otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless. Qin Feiyang shouted. His voice was like a bell, spreading to every alchemy room. Everyone trembled physically and mentally. In their hearts, there was a deep sense of regret. If they had known that this person was so powerful, they would not have provoked him. You don't want to come out? Fine. Just you wait, I'll invite them one by one. Qin Feiyang walked in front of another stone door, and kicked it open fiercely. Whoosh! He stepped into the alchemy room. Accompanied by a horrified scream, a woman was thrown out of the room. Following closely, Qin Feiyang went to the next alchemy room. Everyone that he invited was thrown out, full of hostility. For a moment, the Pillfire Hall's screams and cries for mercy rang out incessantly. Murongjing stood at the bottom of the well, watching coldly. Bang! Bang! 100 breaths passed. Apart from the pill refining rooms number 1 and number 2 on the 10th floor, the rest of the people were thrown out. Qin Feiyang stood at the railing of the 2nd floor. He raised his head and looked at the stone doors of Alchemy Room 1 and Alchemy Room 2. He then lowered his head and looked at the crowd below. A total of 86 people gathered at the bottom of the patio, glaring at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said coldly, I don't want to repeat myself. Lick it now. Impossible. Only if you kill us. The red-haired and blue-haired youths roared, their eyes full of hatred. Is that so? Qin Feiyang leaped up and landed in front of the 2 of them. He kicked at their lower abdomens. The 2 of them screamed and were sent flying on the spot, falling to the ground. Next, Qin Feiyang walked out again. He stomped his foot. Battle chi gushed out from the sole of his foot. The red-haired youth's thigh was instantly crushed, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. Are you going to lick it? Qin Feiyang looked down at him condescendingly. Are you dreaming? The red-haired youth roared. The excruciating pain distorted his face. I like to deal with stubborn people like you. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. With a crack, he stomped down again, crushing the other thigh of the red-haired youth. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Seeing this, everyone else's faces were pale. Some timid people were even scared out of their wits. They hurriedly lay on the ground and licked the water stains on the ground. Are you still stubborn? Qin Feiyang revealed a devilish smile. The red-haired youth roared hysterically. Just you wait, I will definitely kill you. Still stubborn? Qin Feiyang grinned. Clang. He took out a rib and immediately smashed down, breaking both arms of the red-haired youth. The red-haired youth wailed like a pig being slaughtered. What about now? Qin Feiyang asked. The red-haired youth screamed as he stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes full of hatred. Qin Feiyang was surprised. This guy was quite unyielding. However, it was easy to deal with such people. He grabbed the rib and looked at the red-haired youth while pacing around him. Suddenly, he stopped and his gaze swept to the red-haired youth's crotch. The red-haired youth's gaze trembled. What did this person want to do? This thing of yours, I guess it will only harm women. Now I will help you break it. In this way, you can cultivate without any desires in the future. You don't have to thank me. Who asked me to be a good person? Qin Feiyang revealed a smile on his face. However, in the eyes of the red-haired youth, it was as if he saw a devil smiling at him. At the same time, all the men present could not help but clamp their legs. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang raised the rib. The red-haired youth was finally scared and hurriedly said, "No, no, no, I lick. I will lick," Qin Feiyang shouted. "Then hurry up, don't talk nonsense." The red-haired youth hurriedly put his hands on the ground, turned over and lay on the ground. However, when he saw the water stains on the ground, he really could not lick it. Especially when he thought that this was the water to wash feet, he could not do it. It seems that I really have to use my real strength. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He kicked the red-haired youth over, lifted the rib and smashed it at the red-haired youth's penis. "No, I will lick it right away." The red-haired youth was anxious. He hurriedly turned over and lay on the ground. Without any hesitation, he stuck out his tongue and licked the water stains on the ground. He looked like a puppy licking food. "That's a good boy." Qin Feiyang smiled brightly and turned to look at the blue-haired youth. The blue-haired youth's pupils shrank, and he immediately licked. Qin Feiyang looked at the others. Wherever he looked, the men immediately prostrated themselves on the ground. But those women were indifferent. They even looked at Qin Feiyang provocatively. It was as if they were saying, "Come on if you have the guts. If you get the reputation of bullying women, let's see who will lose face." Qin Feiyang glanced at them and said, "You really don't want to lick it? In your dreams. If you have the ability, come and touch us. Come on, we are right in front of you. Hurry up and do it." The group of women not only yelled crazily, but also raised their heads and puffed out their chests. They moved closer to Qin Feiyang as if they were saying, "What can you do to us?" Men were afraid of their penis being smashed, but women were not. Because they were not. Qin Feiyang glanced at those women who were getting closer and closer. His eyes flashed coldly. Whoosh! At this moment, accompanied by the sound of air being torn apart, the Wolf King rushed over explosively and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. "Ha! What's going on?" Seeing the scene in front of him, Wolf King's eyes widened. "Ruffian Wolf!" The group of women suddenly turned pale. It came to the inner palace too? The red-haired youth and the others could not help but feel cold all over. Wolf King's evil deeds had been spread throughout the inner palace. Everyone knew. He broke into the Lu family and peeked at Lu Tingting taking a bath. He tortured Wang Fei and Zheng Chuan. He was the head of the Dong family. Not only was he cruel, but he was also shameless. "Brother, am I that scary?" Wolf King was very unhappy. He sighed. "Sigh, I'm actually very kind. Really, I'm not lying to you." Kind. Everyone rolled their eyes and despised him from the bottom of their hearts. Something's wrong." Wolf King was about to say something, but a trace of suspicion suddenly appeared in his eyes. He carefully sniffed the smell in the air, then turned his head and sniffed Qin Feiyang's hair. Immediately, he pinched his nose and asked in confusion, "What's going on? Why do you smell like this?" Qin Feiyang said, "This is foot washing water." "What?" Wolf King's expression changed, and he hurriedly rose into the air with a look of disdain. Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and said, "You came at the right time. Let them all lie down and lick the foot washing water on the ground clean." As soon as he finished speaking, he jumped and landed on the 10th floor. Looking at the stone doors of the first and second alchemy rooms, his eyes flashed. "Lick it clean." Wolf King was stunned. Looking at the red-haired youth and the others lying on the ground, he immediately thought of a general idea. Boom! A terrifying ferocious aura surged out, enveloping the entire place. "You little girls, don't think that you have the right to be presumptuous just because you're a woman. Let me tell you, your tricks are useful on little Qinzi, but they're useless on me. All of you lie down for me, or I'll strip you naked and make you run outside." Wolf King shouted. His entire body emitted a golden light, and in an instant, he transformed into a muscular wolf. His millstone-sized eyes flickered with an astonishing ferocious light. The group of women's faces turned pale. Without needing Wolf King to do anything, they all lay down one after another. "Woo-woo. I actually drank the foot-washing water. Qin Feiyang and Ruffian Wolf are too much of a bully. I want to tell the hall master," some of the women immediately cried. They felt extremely wronged in their hearts. Even some of the men were shedding tears. "You asked for it. You poured the water yourself. Even if you're crying, you have to swallow it." Wolf King disdainfully turned into the size of a palm and flew up to the 10th floor. He chuckled and said, "What do you think? I'm awesome, right?" Qin Feiyang lowered his head and glanced at the dozens of people. He generously gave Wolf King a thumbs up. Wolf King smiled proudly and asked, "What are you looking at?" Qin Feiyang said, "I'm thinking which alchemy room Lu Xingqian is in, and who's in the other alchemy room." Wolf King said, "I know." "You know?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Wolf King nodded and said, "Lu Xingqian is in alchemy room number 2, but he's not in there now. He's in Heavy Region Mountain." Heavy Region Mountain? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. He had heard of this place before. Back then, when the Pill Hall Master asked Lu Xingqian to reflect on his mistakes, he went to Heavy Region Mountain. "We'll talk about it when we get there. I've heard some shocking news." Wolf King transmitted his voice. "What news?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Wolf King being able to use telepathy was not a small matter at all. "This Shi Ming is an imposter." Chapter 430. What? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled and he asked, "Is it true?" Wolf King said, "It's absolutely true." Qin Feiyang said, "Who pretended to be him?" Wolf King said, "We don't know who pretended to be him yet, but Lu Xingqian respects him very much." Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "So, Shi Ming really went to find Lu Xingqian?" "Yes, I have to admit that you're really smart." Wolf King chuckled. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "It's just a result based on common sense." "You're proud of yourself." Wolf King rolled his eyes and said, "Lu Xingqian is now facing the wall in the Chengyu Mountain. It's more than 10 miles away from the 4 main peaks, but the Chengyu Mountain is quite a fun place." "Fun?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. The Chengyu Mountain is shrouded in a very strong pressure. As long as you enter the range of the Chengyu Mountain, you can't fly. And you can't use your battle qi. It's similar to the shackles on Yin Nanshan's feet and hands when he was in prison. Wolf King's eyes lit up. Pressure? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He didn't expect there to be such a place in the inner hall. Wolf King said in a low voice, "I've recorded their conversation. Do you want to take a look?" Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. This guy was quite smart. "Wait a minute," he said in a low voice. He continued to look at the number 1 alchemy room with an inexplicable light in his eyes. He had always thought that Lu Xingqian was the number 1 alchemist in the inner hall. But he didn't expect that there was another monster hidden. When he had the chance, he must meet this person. Whoosh. At this time, Morongjing flew up and glanced at the 10 alchemy rooms. Her eyes flickered slightly. Qin Feiyang laughed. "You want to snatch the number 1 alchemy room? With you around, is there still a share for me?" Morongjing said indifferently. Qin Feiyang said, "I don't intend to snatch alchemy room 1, I only want alchemy room 2. Because alchemy room number 2 belongs to Lu Xingqian." He added with a mocking look in his eyes. Morongjing didn't understand at first, but when she heard Qin Feiyang's words, she suddenly understood. Subsequently, she looked at alchemy room 1, her eyes flickering. "In terms of alchemy, I'm not as good as Qin Feiyang, but I'm on par with Lu Xingqian. But Lu Xingqian is only in alchemy room 2. The person in alchemy room 1 should be even stronger. Furthermore, Qin Feiyang seems to want to use me to find out more about this man." After weighing the pros and cons, Morongjing gave up on snatching alchemy room 1. She glanced at alchemy room 3, lowered her head to look at the red-haired young man and the others, and asked, "Who does alchemy room 3 belong to?" Hearing this, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a trace of disappointment in his heart. He did want Morongjing to find out more about this man, but Morongjing also clearly saw through the clues. Although this woman was a woman of few words, her mind wasn't simple. It's mine. The blue-haired young man raised his head and looked at Morongjing. From now on, Alchemy Room 3 belongs to me, Morongjing announced in a high-profile manner. The blue-haired young man raised his eyebrows. He was afraid of Qin Feiyang, but he wasn't afraid of Morongjing. He didn't even know who Morongjing was. But he still had concerns. This woman came with Qin Feiyang, and the two should have a good relationship. What he was worried about was whether Qin Feiyang would help Morongjing. I won't ask about your business. But the water on the floor must be licked clean, Qin Feiyang said lightly, pushed open the stone door, and strode into Alchemy Room 2. What? He's taking Alchemy Room 2 for himself just like that. Lu Xingqian will go crazy if he finds out. The crowd below suddenly became restless. Hurry up, I'll wait for you in the Alchemy Room. Morongjing waved her hand and her battle aura surged. She knocked open the stone door of the Alchemy Room and walked in openly under the furious gaze of the blue-haired young man. Damn woman. You'll know the consequences of offending me later. The blue-haired young man's eyes had a trace of viciousness, and he shouted, Hurry up and lick it. I'm going to strip that woman of her clothes and make her run naked outside. I'd like to see who's going to run naked later. Morongjing, who was standing in Alchemy Room 3, had a cold glint in her eyes. Alchemy Room 2. This alchemy room was very big, at least 200 to 300 feet wide. It had an independent alchemy room, a cultivation room, and a lounge. Everything was available. I'll go wash up first. After closing the stone door, Qin Feiyang said to Wolf King and walked into the lounge. There was a water source in the lounge, and there was also a place for washing up. Wolf King wandered around the alchemy room. After a while, Qin Feiyang walked out, changed into a clean set of clothes, and looked refreshed. He sat on the chair in the cultivation room and shouted, White-eyed wolf, show me what you've recorded. If Shiming was really impersonated by someone else, it must be related to the Lu family. Just this point alone was enough to put the Lu family in a state of eternal damnation. But before that, he had to find out who the impersonator was. There might be some clues about what Wolf King had recorded. Wolf King slipped into the lounge like a wisp of smoke. But he grabbed a cauldron with his claws. Qin Feiyang looked at the cauldron, and his eyes suddenly widened. He said in surprise, Where did you get this? The cauldron was black, and there was a lifelike lion carved on it. The light it emitted was even stronger than a third-grade cauldron. It was enough to show that it was a fourth-grade cauldron. Guess. The Wolf King chuckled. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He raised his head and looked at the alchemy room. That's right. It's the cauldron in the alchemy room. It must be Lu Xingqian's. I'll help you erase the blood contract now. Wolf King laughed sinisterly, and a golden battle chi appeared and rushed toward the cauldron. Lu Xingqian was a 5-star combat emperor, and so was Wolf King. It was not difficult to erase the blood contract. At the same time, in a cave in the Heavy Region Mountain, Lu Xingqian sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. Puff. Suddenly, his body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? Lu Xingqian opened his eyes, which were filled with confusion. This is bad. Someone must have snatched my cauldron. All of a sudden, he shuddered and suddenly stood up, his eyes bursting with a cold light. No matter who it is, I won't let you have an easy time. Muttering to himself, Lu Xingqian walked out of the cave with a gloomy face. In the alchemy room, Wolf King withdrew his battle chi and laughed. Done, quickly drip your blood to recognize me as your master. Qin Feiyang immediately bit his finger and dripped a drop of blood onto the cauldron. A layer of blood light appeared and quickly subsided. A piece of information entered Qin Feiyang's mind. 4th-grade cauldron, lion cauldron. Wolf King laughed sinisterly. Lu Xingqian's expression must be very interesting right now. If he doesn't come looking for me, then he's tactful. But if he comes looking for trouble with me, I'll let him know what it means to ask for humiliation. Qin Feiyang put away the lion cauldron and pursed his lips into a cold smile. I'm really looking forward to it. Wolf King chuckled and took out an image crystal. He poured his battle chi into it, and a video quickly appeared. In the video, there was a pitch-black mountain peak that was hundreds of feet tall, standing tall on the ground. On the mountain there was nothing, not even a single weed. It was like a dead zone. However, on the cliff at the foot of the mountain, there were neatly arranged holes that were 10 feet large. They were like wormholes, emitting a mysterious and strange aura. In the video, Shi Ming strode into one of the holes. Inside the hole was a cave of about 10 feet. It was very simple and crude, with only a stone bed. Lu Xingchen sat cross-legged on the stone bed. When Shi Ming entered the cave, Lu Xingchen immediately stood up and bowed to welcome him. Shi Ming didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Qin Feiyang has arrived at the inner palace." So fast. Lu Xingchen's eyes trembled. Shi Ming asked, "Have you thought of a way to get rid of him?" "No." Lu Xingchen shook his head and sighed. "Even Dong Qing, a 6-star combat emperor, is no match for him. What can I do?" Shi Ming said, "I have an idea." Lu Xingchen was delighted and asked, "What is it?" Shi Ming said, "The 2 kings of the inner palace are both 1-star combat ancestors. As long as you can persuade them and ask for their help, it won't be a problem." "Yeah, why didn't I think of them?" Lu Xingchen's eyes lit up. But after thinking for a while he shook his head and said, "I'm afraid it won't work. Both of them are in seclusion all year round. It's harder than ascending the heavens to meet them, let alone ask them to help." Seeing Lu Xingchen's lack of confidence, Shi Ming frowned. "You haven't even tried. How do you know it won't work? Let me tell you, if you don't get rid of Qin Feiyang, you won't even have a chance to become the next patriarch, let alone go to the imperial capital," Shi Ming said angrily. Hearing this, Lu Xingchen's body trembled and bowed. "I will do my best. Also you have to remember, don't be so respectful to me in front of others. The 2 palace masters are experienced people. If you act a little strangely, they will be able to see through it. If they know that I'm not Shi Ming, we're finished," Shi Ming warned with a serious face. "I understand." Lu Xingchen nodded. "All right, think about it carefully." Shi Ming said a few more words and turned to leave. The image in the void also ended. Wolf King put away the image crystal and asked, "How was it? Did you find any clues?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, "According to my deduction, this imposter should be from the Lu family." "What do you mean?" Wolf King was surprised. Lu Xingchen is proud and arrogant. How many people in the imperial capital can make him respect them so much? The palace master, the precious treasure pavilion master, the various big shots of the divine temple. These people are worthy of respect. But the palace master and the others wouldn't do such a thing. Other than that, there's only the Lu family left. For example, the Lu family master, Old Monster Lu, the various elders, and Lu Xingchen would definitely respect them. Qin Feiyang analyzed. "That makes sense." Wolf King nodded and asked, "Is it possible that he's from another super family?" "Impossible. The super families fight openly and secretly. If they want to help, they'll help us deal with the Lu family. They won't join hands with the Lu family to deal with us. Besides, Lu Xingchen doesn't need to be so respectful to people from other super clans," Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King nodded thoughtfully and asked, "So what should we do now?" "First, find out how many 9-star combat emperors there are in the Lu family. What are their identities? I'll send a message to Yin Yuanming. He must know." Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal. But at this moment, there was a faint noise outside. "What's going on?" Wolf King was surprised. "I don't know. Let's go out and have a look." Qin Feiyang put away the image crystal and walked out of the resting room to the stone door. Chapter 431. Outside the door, there were 70 to 80 people gathered. The leader was the red-haired youth. His lost legs had been restored to their original state. It was noisy at first, but when they saw Qin Feiyang and Wolf King walk out, they immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear. "Did you lick it clean? Come up." Qin Feiyang frowned. "Lick clean?" a skinny disciple said in a trembling voice. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at the bottom of the patio. It was really clean and spotless. Wolf King asked. Then why are you gathered here now? A female disciple said timidly. We are watching Morong Jing and Wu Yan compete in alchemy. Compete in alchemy? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said. What's the result? The female disciple said. Morong Jing won. Won? Qin Feiyang was surprised. He knew that Morong Jing was a top-grade alchemist. Lu Yan had also said that Morong Jing could refine top-grade pills. But after coming to the capital for so long, he had never seen Morong Jing refine pills with his own eyes. So, he still didn't know how good Morong Jing was at alchemy. At this moment, the blue-haired youth walked out in a daze, his face full of unwillingness. Wolf King said disdainfully, You're not even as good as a woman. What are you being arrogant for? Shut up. The blue-haired youth shouted, his hands clenched tightly together. Yeah. You've grown a temper. Come, let me practice with you. Wolf King stretched out his claws and provoked. The blue-haired youth's pupils constricted, and the fear on his face was clearly visible. Humph. But he couldn't put down his face. He snorted and looked at the red-haired youth. Suyang, I want your alchemy room number 4. The red-haired youth frowned, looking very unhappy, but in the end he nodded and said, Okay, then the 5th alchemy room is mine. The person in the 5th alchemy room immediately cried, his eyes full of helplessness. Suyang, Wu Yan, Qin Feiyang glanced at the two of them. Judging from the current situation, Wu Yan's alchemy talent was a notch higher than Su Yang's. Who else wants to challenge? I'll accompany you anytime. Morong Jing walked out and looked at the crowd calmly. No one made a sound. Who dared to steal my pill furnace? Get down here and die. But at this moment, an angry roar sounded from below the patio. Everyone looked down and saw Lu Xingchen standing below, panting. His eyes were filled with anger. What's the situation? Who stole his alchemy furnace? Everyone was puzzled. Suddenly, everyone looked at Qin Feiyang. Because when Lu Xingchen was facing the wall to reflect, only Qin Feiyang had entered alchemy room 2. Given his personality, it wouldn't be strange for him to steal Lu Xingchen's pill furnace. Qin Feiyang walked to the railing and looked down at Lu Xingchen. He didn't deny it and said indifferently, It's me. It's you. Lu Xingchen gritted his teeth, a cold light shooting out from his eyes. But the next moment, a smile crawled up his face and he said, So it's Brother Qin. Why didn't you tell me in advance that you came to the inner hall? I could have welcomed you. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Senior brother Lu is busy facing the wall. How would I dare to disturb you? Everyone looked at each other. What was going on? Didn't the two have a grudge? Why did it look like an old friend meeting now? Whoosh. Lu Xingchen leaped and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. He smiled and said, Brother Qin, if you've taken a fancy to the Black Lion Cauldron, you could have just told me and I would have given it to you. Why do you need to use such underhanded means? Why did these words sound wrong? It seemed to be mocking Qin Feiyang. The look in everyone's eyes changed. It seemed that Lu Xingchen hadn't let go of what happened back then. He still hated Qin Feiyang in his heart. But he didn't choose to fall out with him directly. Instead, he used this method to mock Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang, you've finally met your match. Let's see how you fight back now. Fall out with him? Or endure it? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang with a sneer in their eyes. Qin Feiyang saw the look in their eyes, but he just smiled faintly. Senior brother Lu, you're wrong. I didn't steal or cheat. How can I be considered underhanded? To be honest, I can snatch the Black Lion Cauldron because I have the ability. I'm more confident that you definitely can't take it back. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Everyone's hearts trembled. Although Qin Feiyang said it quite politely, his words were full of provocation. Lu Xingchen also clenched his hands tightly. The reason for that was because Qin Feiyang's words had a double meaning. The positive meaning was that Qin Feiyang had the ability, but the reverse was to say that he, Lu Xingchen, was incompetent. I'll endure it. Lu Xingchen took a deep breath and said with a smile, Since Brother Qin has taken a fancy to the Black Lion Cauldron, then as your senior brother, I naturally have to be more magnanimous. Now I'll publicly announce that I'm giving the Black Lion Cauldron to you. There was a deeper meaning behind his words. Because in this way, it wasn't Qin Feiyang who snatched it with his ability, but Lu Xingqian who gave it to him. The meaning was completely different. Not only could Lu Xingqian save his face, but he could also show his magnanimity, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Giving away a 4th-grade cauldron just like that, senior brother Lu is indeed a disciple of a wealthy family. If you have a 5th-grade cauldron in the future, don't forget about me, senior brother Lu. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Insatiable greed. Everyone revealed looks of disdain. Lu Xingqian also revealed a look of ridicule. You're all too naive. He's not greedy. He's secretly mocking Lu Xingqian, calling him a wastrel and a dandy. Someone explained in a low voice. Qin Feiyang was quite surprised. He shook his head and laughed. It seems that there are still 1 or 2 smart people in the inner hall. Only then did everyone come to a realization. Both intelligent and brave, this Qin Feiyang was indeed a difficult character to deal with. Lu Xingqian's expression also froze on the spot. It was as ugly as it could be. He thought that he could save face, but now it was even more embarrassing. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and asked, Senior brother Lu, I'm occupying your alchemy room. You don't have a problem with that, right? Of course, Lu Xingqian paused and smiled. Of course not. After all, as a senior brother, I have to take care of a new junior brother. But in his heart, he was already boiling with rage. From the moment he became a supreme-grade alchemist, he had never been so aggrieved. Especially the word occupy, which made him feel even more humiliated. Thank you, senior brother. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. Then he turned around and walked into alchemy room number 2. Bang. The stone door quickly closed. Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at Wu Yan and said, I want your alchemy room now. Give it up immediately. Wu Yan smiled bitterly and pointed at Morongjing. Alchemy room number 3 is now hers. If you want it, go to her. Lu Xingqian looked at Morongjing and raised his eyebrows slightly. I want to challenge you. Morongjing said indifferently, then hurry up. That calm expression and calm tone made Lu Xingqian almost go crazy. A woman dared to look down on him? But he didn't know that Morongjing didn't mean to look down on him at all. It was just her personality. Seeing this, Wu Yan's lips moved. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. Lu Xingqian entered alchemy room number 3. Morongjing waved her jade-like hand, and the stone door closed with a bang. Su Yang was puzzled. Wu Yan, why didn't you tell Lu Xingqian? He's usually so arrogant. Why should I tell him? Wu Yan sneered. That's true. First, he was humiliated by Qin Feiyang. Next, he's going to lose to a woman. He'll definitely go crazy later. Su Yang nodded with a smile on his face. How is that possible? Sure enough. Not long after, there was a roar in alchemy room number 3. Then, the stone door opened. Lu Xingqian walked out of the alchemy room with a gloomy face. Lu Xingqian, don't forget our bet. Morongjing's cold voice came from inside. What bet? Everyone looked at Lu Xingqian in confusion. But the next moment, everyone's eyes widened in shock. Those women exclaimed and turned their heads away, because Lu Xingqian had taken off all his clothes, leaving only his underwear. Boom. The stone door of alchemy room number 2 opened. Wolf King and Qin Feiyang heard the news and came out. When they saw this scene, they were stunned. Why was he naked? However, facing everyone's surprised eyes, Lu Xingqian didn't explain at all. He directly jumped down from the railing and ran outside. Naked. These 2 words crawled up in everyone's mind. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Wu Yan and the others. He asked suspiciously, What's going on? Humph. Wu Yan snorted coldly and also jumped down, chasing after Lu Xingqian. The others also ignored Qin Feiyang and followed to watch the fun. Wolf King chuckled. It seems that they are very dissatisfied with you. So what if they are dissatisfied? Qin Feiyang sneered. At this time, Morongjing walked out. Qin Feiyang turned to look at her and asked in confusion, Why did Lu Xingqian take off his clothes? Just before the competition, he threatened me, so I fought back and made a bet with him. The loser will go outside and run around the inner hall naked. Morong Jing's tone and expression were still very calm, as if she had done something trivial. Hee hee, I'll go out and take a look. The Wolf King let out a sinister laugh and plunged downward. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He said angrily, "Don't forget that you have business to do. Come back quickly." "Got it," Wolf King replied without turning his head. Morong Jing also followed him back to the third alchemy room. Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at her back. His eyes flickered. Although Lu Xingchen's brain was not very good, he definitely had real ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been rumored to be a god. But now he was actually defeated by the unknown Morong Jing. This woman was not simple. She might even be like him, hiding the true level of her mental strength. This Lu Xingchen was really unlucky. After suffering several losses in a day, let's see how arrogant he can be in the future. However, the good show was still to come. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, and also turned to return to the second alchemy room. After closing the stone door, he sat in the lounge and pondered for a moment. Then he took out the image crystal and activated it quickly. Zing! An illusory figure appeared. Chapter 432. As soon as Yin Yuanming appeared, he said with a smile, "Brother Qin, I was just about to look for you." Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "Why are you looking for me?" "Look, it's been a month. The elixirs you gave me have been auctioned off long ago. Is it time to?" Yin Yuanming chuckled. He was a standard old fox. Qin Feiyang's face twitched and he said helplessly, "You know that the rarer something is, the more valuable it is. If it is auctioned every month, it will be worthless." Yes. So now, we are going to auction a red fire-colored glass elixir, and a potential elixir every half a month." Yin Yuanming smiled. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and asked, "How much was the last potential elixir sold at auction?" "About 20 billion. Yin Yuanming stretched out 2 fingers and his face was full of smiles. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Compared to a potential elixir with 1 elixir pattern, it was actually doubled. "Brother, this is a good opportunity to make a fortune. You must seize it," Yin Yuanming said with a smile, his words full of temptation. But Qin Feiyang was not moved at all. He lowered his head and pondered. "What's wrong?" Yin Yuanming's heart was immediately suspended and he asked nervously. Qin Feiyang looked up at Yin Yuanming and shook his head. "To be honest, I don't want to sell the potential elixir anymore." "Why?" Yin Yuanming asked hurriedly. Qin Feiyang said, "The potential elixir is too precious. To put it bluntly, even 100 billion gold coins can't be equal to the value of the potential elixir." "That's true." Yin Yuanming nodded. Once the door of potential was opened, whether it was talent, potential, or comprehension, they would all be raised to a new level. It could be said that a potential elixir was enough to create a strong person. Its real value naturally couldn't be measured by gold coins. But as a businessman, of course, making money was the main thing. "Brother, I admit that what you said is very reasonable. But if we don't sell the potential elixir, not only will our treasure pavilion lose a lot of customers, but you will also have endless trouble. Because at that time, everyone will go to you. You have to know that people can do anything if they are forced." Yin Yuanming said. There was only one meaning behind these words. If he didn't sell it, there would definitely be a lot of people who would be unfavorable to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang frowned. He wasn't afraid, but he didn't want too much trouble. "All right, we'll continue to sell it, but we'll have to make some changes. 1 potential pill will be auctioned every month. 2 red fire-colored glass pills with 2 veins will be auctioned every month. This way, not only can we control the outflow of potential pills, we can also take the opportunity to raise the price. Why don't we just set the starting price at 30 billion in the next auction? There will still be people fighting over it." Qin Feiyang smiled. Yin Yuanming's eyes lit up as he chuckled and said, "You cunning fellow, you should come to our treasure pavilion." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Doing business is too troublesome. It's not suitable for me." "What a waste of talent." Yin Yuanming sighed deeply and nodded. "All right, we'll do as you say. I'll go to the holy temple to find you later." Qin Feiyang said, "I'm in the inner temple now." "Why did you go to the inner temple so quickly?" Yin Yuanming frowned. But when he thought of Qin Feiyang's glorious achievements in the Holy Temple, he understood. Such a talent. The 3 giants of the Holy Temple would definitely bring him to the inner temple and train him well. I'm not qualified to enter the inner temple, so you can only send the pills here, Yin Yuanming said. That's not a problem, but there's one thing you have to tell me truthfully, Qin Feiyang said. What is it? Yin Yuanming was puzzled. Qin Feiyang asked, how many 9-star combat emperors does the Lu family have? Why are you suddenly asking this? Don't tell me you're going to make a move on the Lu family. Yin Yuanming looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and said, do I have the ability to do so now? I have my plans, you just have to tell me in detail. Yin Yuanming looked at him deeply and said, the Lu family has a total of 4 9-star combat emperors, the Patriarch, the Grand Elder, the Second Elder and the Third Elder. 4. Qin Feiyang's pupils shrank and said, where are they now? Yin Yuanming thought for a while and said, they rarely show themselves, they should be in seclusion to break through to the combat master realm. Qin Feiyang said, can you help me check their whereabouts? Check them? Yin Yuanming was stunned and smiled bitterly. Do you think I can help with my current relationship with the Lu family? Qin Feiyang was stunned and then smiled bitterly. Zhenbao Pavilion had completely banned the Lu family. The Lu family hated Zhenbao Pavilion to the bone. Yin Yuanming might not even be able to enter the Lu family's door, let alone inquire about the news. Forget it, I'll think of a way myself. As for the elixir, I'll send it to you when I'm free. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, then turned off the image crystal, and fell into deep thought again. Outside, the situation was in an uproar. Whether it was the disciples of Pill Fire Palace or Cultivation Palace, they all came out to watch the show. Lu Xingqian lowered his head and ran wildly in the void. His hands were clenched tightly and his face was green and red. This was more than just a disgrace, it was a shame that he would never be able to wash away. As for the Wolf King, he grabbed a wooden stick and chased after Lu Xingqian. He kept roaring at Lu Xingqian as if he was chasing a cow. This made Lu Xingqian extremely angry. In the sky above the Cultivation Palace, a woman of peerless beauty stood facing the wind. It was Run Wushuang. She looked at Lu Xingqian from afar with a calm face. No one knew what she was thinking. Whoosh! Another woman in black flew into the sky and landed in front of Ren Wushuang. This woman was also very beautiful. She had skin of ice and bones of jade and a tall figure. The pair of mountains in front of her chest were even more voluptuous, attracting the eyes of all the men below. Moreover, she had a natural charm. Her every frown and smile was enough to tug at the heartstrings. The woman in black said, Run Wushuang, what's the meaning of this? What? Run Wushuang turned his head and looked at her in confusion. Can you not play dumb? No matter what, Lu Xingqian is still your fiancé. Are you going to ignore him and let that scoundrel humiliate him? The woman in black frowned and looked at Ren Wushuang with a trace of disgust. Ren Wushuang caught it, but pretended not to see it. He turned his head and continued to look at Lu Xingqian. Seeing that Ren Wushuang was silent, the woman in black behind him could no longer hide the disgust in her eyes. I really don't know what's so good about you that Lu Xingqian is so infatuated with you. I really feel that it's not worth it for him. If you don't go, I'll go. I don't believe that a beast can overturn the sky. The woman in black snorted and turned into a stream of light, flying towards Wolf King. I advise you not to go. Everyone in the city knows the rogue wolf's character. He won't care if you're a woman or not. Besides, whether I help Lu Xingqian or not is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Run Wushuang finally spoke. His voice was like the sound of nature, intoxicating. You. The woman in black stopped in the void, and turned her head to look at Ren Wushuang. Her eyes were a little hazy. Did I say something wrong? Ren Wushuang said lightly. The woman in black sneered. You're not wrong. The one who's wrong is Lu Xingqian. He must be blind to like you. Unfortunately, even if he's blind, he won't like you. Ren Wushuang said with an expressionless face. The woman in black clenched her jade-like hands. Her eyes were cold. She said coldly, If you're not the granddaughter of the palace lord, would he like you? You're absolutely right. He's such a person. He only cares about power. Women are just tools in his heart. Listen to my advice. Don't provoke him. Otherwise, you'll regret it in the future. Ren Wuxia said indifferently before descending towards the cultivation palace below. The woman in black looked at her and flew towards Lu Xingqian without hesitation. She shouted, "Rogue Wolf, don't go too far." Wolf King stopped in the void and looked at the woman in black. He said mockingly, "Do you also want to run around naked?" The woman in black's eyes turned cold. She said, "The inner palace is not a place for a beast like you to behave atrociously." She pointed her finger in the air. A dazzling battle chi surged towards the Wolf King like a torrential flood. 6-star battle emperor? Wolf King was stunned. He said disdainfully, "You dare to attack me with such strength?" Swoosh! He used the air escape step and calmly dodged the battle chi attack. After a few flashes, he landed in front of the woman. "If you want to run around naked, I'll grant your wish." He laughed and stretched out his small demonic claws towards the woman in black's dress. "How dare you?" The woman in black shouted angrily. "There's nothing I don't dare to do." Wolf King grabbed the woman's dress and was about to tear it off. Ren Wuxuang's voice sounded at this moment. "Rogue Wolf, don't mess around. Go back." She stood in the square of the cultivation palace with a trace of anger on her face. Wolf King looked at Ren Wuxuang and pursed his lips. He let go of the woman in black's dress and snorted, "You're lucky today. Try again next time." After saying that, he threw away the wooden stick in his hand and turned in the air. He rushed towards the Pillfire Palace without looking back. Seeing this, everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Rogue Wolf's character was obvious to all. He was definitely someone who was not afraid of anything. How could he be afraid of Ren Wuxuang? Did Ren Wuxuang and Rogue Wolf know each other? That couldn't be right. If they really knew each other, Rogue Wolf would at least say goodbye to Ren Wuxuang before leaving. It should be because of Ren Wuxuang's identity. No one in the entire spiritual state would dare to touch the granddaughter of the mansion master. From the looks of it, this ruffian wolf wasn't really lawless after all. Pillfire Palace. As soon as Wolf King entered alchemy room number 2, he smirked at Qin Feiyang. "I saw Ren Wuxuang outside just now. She's more beautiful than before. Little Qin Zi, why don't you take her as well?" "Get lost." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Couldn't this bastard be more serious? Wolf King smirked. "I'm doing this for your own good. Don't give up the entire ocean for a mermaid. It's not worth it." "You're not done, are you?" Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of hostility. Wolf King hurriedly stretched out his paw. Okay, I won't say any more. How was it? Did you find out?" Qin Feiyang nodded. "Yes, for 9-star combat emperors. By the way, how is Lu Xingqian?" "So many?" Wolf King was a little surprised. He chuckled. "What do you think will happen after running around naked? I'm afraid he won't have the face to see anyone after today. Let's not talk about him. What should we do next?" "Of course we'll go to the Lu family and find out." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He waved his hand to open a portal and strode in. Hee. Lu family, you'll tremble in fear." Wolf King chuckled and ran in like a wisp of smoke. Chapter 433. The Lu family. This behemoth was located in the center of the East City, covering an area of more than 10 miles. There were pavilions, gardens, woods, small bridges, and flowing water. The 4 walls were 3 to 4 meters high, inlaid with white jade, clean and neat. The gate was 7 to 8 meters high. 2 white stone sculptures of giant tigers stood on both sides of the gate. They were vivid and lifelike, showing off an extraordinary style. The 4 guards stood in front of the stone sculptures, their backs straight and their eyes bright. Whoosh! Suddenly, a man and a wolf appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang. Ruffian wolf. The 4 guards immediately became vigilant. Their eyes flashed with an astonishing cold light. Qin Feiyang looked at the 4 and said indifferently, "Go and tell Patriarch Lu that I am here to visit." "Sorry. My Lu family does not welcome you. Get lost immediately, otherwise don't blame us for being rude." The 4 guards shouted. "You're courting death. Wolf King's eyes flashed fiercely. He stepped out and instantly landed in front of the four. Slap. At that moment, the four of them were slapped in the face, and with a scream, they flew out and hit the stone sculptures behind them, blood gushing out. We can come to your Lu family, because your ancestors have accumulated merit. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you. Wolf King sneered. The four of them climbed up in a sorry state, clenching their fingers, and looked at Wolf King with hatred. The Wolf King shouted, "What are you waiting for? Go and report this." The four of them quivered and couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. One of them immediately turned around and rushed into the gate, without looking back to inform Patriarch Lu. "I was talking to you nicely, but you didn't listen and forced me to do it. Aren't you asking for a beating?" Wolf King glanced at the other three with disdain, and then returned to Qin Feiyang's shoulder. When the three of them heard this, an indescribable fear emerged in their hearts. The man and the wolf came so suddenly that they didn't have time to recall what happened in the sacred palace. Now that they remembered it, they were afraid. The ruffian wolf in front of them was someone who even dared to beat up Patriarch Dong. What were they, small guards to him? Very soon, the guard who went to report came out with a black-clothed old man. It was Steward Lu. "Why have you come to my Lu clan?" Steward Lu frowned. "Haven't you always wanted to invite us to the Lu family? What is it? Now that we're here, you're not welcoming us?" Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "Welcome, of course you're welcome. Please come in." Housekeeper Lu retreated to the side, a cold light flashing in the depths of his old eyes. With a faint smile on his face, Qin Feiyang entered the Lu family in a grand manner. From now on, no one is allowed to visit. Steward Lu warned the four guards and quickly chased after Qin Feiyang. The four guards looked at each other, their eyes shining with a cold light. It was easy to enter the Lu family, but it was difficult to leave the Lu family. A moment later, Qin Feiyang and Steward Lu entered a reception hall. The reception hall was very large, and the decorations were very luxurious. There were even maids waiting outside the door. Steward Lu sat on the main seat and pointed to a chair next to him, saying, "Please take a seat." Qin Feiyang glanced around, walked to the chair, and sat down. "Come, serve the tea," Steward Lu shouted outside the door. A moment later, two maids carried a tray and walked into the reception hall one after another. After that, the two of them turned and left the reception hall, waiting outside the door. Qin Feiyang picked up the teacup, put it at the tip of his nose and sniffed it, then put it on the table next to him. Seeing this, Steward Lu sneered. "What? The fearless Qin Feiyang is also afraid of poison?" Qin Feiyang said lightly, "I just don't like the smell." "You don't like it?" Steward Lu raised his eyebrows and said, "This is the best tea in the city. What are you picky about?" "Everyone's taste is different. The best may not suit everyone. This is the same as people. Those with good talent may not be able to have a smooth journey and soar." Qin Feiyang laughed. Steward Lu said, "If you want to say something, just say it. Don't be sarcastic." "Is there?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, "Previously, I heard people outside say that Lu Xingqian bullies men and women and has a bad character. This is not a good thing." "Nonsense." Steward Lu was furious. Qin Feiyang said, "Now that everyone is talking about it, it's hard to say whether it's nonsense or not." "You." Steward Lu was furious and was about to scold him. But suddenly, he frowned and looked gloomily at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, saying, "Were you the ones who spread these rumors?" Wolf King pursed his lips and said, "Whether it was us who spread it or not, won't you know if you investigate?" Steward Lu said angrily, "If I could investigate, why would I ask you? Who is to blame? You can only blame yourselves for being too useless." Wolf King's eyes were full of disdain. Steward Lu glanced at the man and wolf with a gloomy face. Originally, he wanted to sound them out, but now, he was even more confused. Was it a man and a wolf who were spreading rumors? He could not tell. Wolf King rolled his eyes and said, "There's one more thing I need to tell you. Previously, Lu Xingqian ran naked in the inner hall and lost all his face." "What?" Steward Lu suddenly stood up and glared at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, his body burning with anger. "It has nothing to do with us. Why are you glaring at us? Wolf King rolled his eyes. Impossible, Steward Lu said coldly. With Lu Xingchen's talent, who would dare to provoke him? It must be these two little bastards who were causing trouble. Believe it or not. Wolf King pursed his lips. Let's see how long you can be arrogant. Steward Lu muttered to himself. A cold light flashed in his old eyes. He said, let's not beat around the bush. Why did you come to the Lu family? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said calmly, the white-eyed wolf is itching to challenge your Lu family's 9-star combat emperor. Challenge? Steward Lu was stunned and immediately became furious. He shouted, don't push it too far. Don't be so agitated. Let me finish first. If you win, I will ask Zhenbao Pavilion to cancel the ban on the Lu family. Qin Feiyang said. Cancel the ban. Steward Lu's eyes lit up. No. How could this little bastard be so kind? There must be a trap. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. I mean what I say. As long as the white-eyed wolf loses, I will immediately send a message to Yin Yuanming. Steward Lu asked cautiously. Why do you want to challenge them? Didn't I tell you? My hands are itching. If you really want to find an explanation, I want to humiliate you. How about it? Do you dare to accept the challenge? Wolf King laughed sinisterly. His small body emitted a monstrous battle intent. Arrogant. Wait here. I will go and ask the family head now. You will definitely regret it when the time comes. Steward Lu was furious. He shouted coldly and rushed out of the reception room. Wolf King said telepathically, Little Qinzi, will it really work? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wolf King said, why don't we send a message to the mansion master and ask him for help? We will see. Qin Feiyang replied. If they always asked for help, they would become dependent on others. They could ask the mansion master for help now. However, when they went to the capital and faced the threat of the imperial power, who could they ask for help from? Therefore, they had to rely on themselves for everything. Swoosh. Zoom. Two figures broke through the air and entered the reception room. They were the head of the Lu family, Steward Lu. Steward Lu said in a deep voice, how do you want to fight? Wolf King said domineeringly, regardless of life and death, we will take turns to fight. You can choose whatever you want. Don't be too arrogant. Patriarch Lu shouted. I am so arrogant. So what? Wolf King looked at him contemptuously and provocatively. Okay. I will fight with you first. But the premise is that you are not allowed to use that rib. Patriarch Lu said. Are you an idiot? This is a life and death battle. Of course, I will use any means. Wolf King sneered, his eyes full of contempt. Patriarch Lu's eyes darkened and he hesitated. If he did not use his rib, he would not hesitate to accept the challenge. However, the power of his rib was obvious to all. Patriarch Dong's strength was about the same as his. Even Patriarch Dong was no match for this ruffian wolf. His chances of winning were definitely very slim. However, if he did not accept the challenge, this man and wolf would definitely make a big fuss. At that time, the Lu family would inevitably become the laughingstock of the world. Moreover, as a superfamily, the Lu family's pride would not allow them to cower from the challenge. Patriarch. This is a good opportunity to kill them. We can't refuse. Because they provoked us first. Even if we kill them, the people in the inner hall will have nothing to say. But you can't do it alone. Just call the Grand Elder and the others here. If you join forces, you will definitely kill it quickly. Steward Lu whispered in Patriarch Lu's ear. Patriarch Lu's eyes lit up. He looked at the man and wolf and asked, take turns to fight. Let's fight together. We can choose, right? Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded. Okay. Patriarch Lu nodded and sneered. I will do as you wish. Steward Lu, go and call the Grand Elder and the Second Elder here immediately. Yes. Steward Lu bowed and coldly glanced at the man and wolf. Then he turned around and flew into the sky. Little Qinzi, why did he only call the Grand Elder and the Second Elder here? Where is the Third Elder? Is that impostor the Third Elder? Wolf King said in surprise through telepathy. It's very possible. Qin Feiyang secretly said, and a light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Patriarch Lu definitely knew the power of the bones. Moreover, he could also see that Patriarch Lu wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of him and Wolf King. Logically speaking, the third elder should also be called, because this would be more likely to succeed. But he didn't even mention it, which meant that there must be something wrong. Soon, two old men with white hair and a ruddy complexion arrived in the living room with Steward Lu. Both of them looked very old, as if they were about to die, but their faces were ruddy and full of spirit. At the same time, looking at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, their eyes were also full of killing intent. Wolf King waved its claws, and two ribs appeared out of thin air, exuding an astonishing aura. You three old bastards are not enough. Who else is there? Call them out. Brother, I will deal with them together. It glanced at the three arrogantly. Its contemptuous eyes were like looking at ants, which almost drove Patriarch Lu and the other two crazy. Cut the crap. Come with us. The three of them shouted coldly, turned around and flew out. Chapter 434. Swoosh. Two groups of people rushed out of the hall one after the other, and soared into the sky. Boom. The Wolf King stood up like a human and transformed into a muscular wolf that was over 10 meters tall. Terrifying ferocious might spread out in all directions. Qin Feiyang said, if you lose you have to hand over all the Lu family's savings. He did this to dispel the doubts in their hearts. Because of this, the Lu family would never think that they were here to investigate Shiming's real identity. They would only think that they were here for the Lu family's savings. On the other hand, they wanted to completely destroy the Lu family. The reason why the Lu family could continue to survive was because of the savings they had accumulated in the past. If they lost now, they would lose their savings. The Lu family that was banned by the Precious Treasure Pavilion would be doomed. They could find out Shiming's identity and destroy the Lu family at the same time. It was killing two birds with one stone. So this is your real purpose. You want to destroy the Lu family? You don't have the ability. Today the Lu family will accompany you to the end. Either you die or I die. The patriarch of the Lu family, the Grand Elder, and the Second Elder were furious. Boom. Their aura exploded and shocked everyone. What's going on? The people of the East City were shocked. Many figures soared into the sky and looked toward the Lu family. Look, isn't that Qin Feiyang and Ruffian Wolf? Why are they here? These two guys went straight to the Lu family. They are too lawless. The people were shocked. One told 10, 10 told 100, and this matter soon became a hot topic. These two little bastards really know how to cause trouble. Yin Yuanming stood in the sky above the Precious Treasure Pavilion, and muttered to himself. Swoosh. A lady in purple landed beside him and asked curiously, what's going on? I don't know either. Not long ago, Qin Feiyang asked me how many 9-star combat emperors there are in the Lu family. I even asked him if he was going to attack the Lu family. He said that he doesn't have the ability to do so now. But in the blink of an eye, he went to the Lu family. It looks like he is going to fight. I really don't get it. What is this bastard trying to do? Yin Yuanming frowned. Find out how many 9-star combat emperors there are in the Lu family. The purple-clothed woman muttered, and the space between her brows was filled with puzzlement. They're attacking. Someone below shouted in alarm. Rumble. In the sky above the Lu family, Patriarch Lu and the other two patriarchs exchanged glances and waved their hands at the same time. Battle chi gushed out of their bodies like a torrent. Patriarch Lu's battle chi was golden in color, and it carried a bone-piercing sharpness. The Grand Elder and the Second Elder's battle chi were fiery red, like a sea of fire rolling in the sky. Bastard, die. The three of them roared as 3 streams of battle chi swept across the sky, rolling towards Wolf King. Following closely, they immediately performed their battle arts. He intended to kill Wolf King as quickly as possible. Be careful. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them and warned Wolf King before retreating. Trash, wake up. Ayo. Wolf King raised his head and roared. He didn't dodge the attacks, but rushed towards the 3 streams of battle chi. Dog beating stick first form, total annihilation. As he approached, He waved his claws and smashed towards the 3 streams of battle chi. Rumble. The rib bone glowed with a hazy light as it destroyed the 3 streams of battle chi. Wolf King was unharmed. What? Patriarch Lu and the other 2 patriarchs were shocked. Seeing this scene, they realized a very serious problem. They had underestimated the power of the rib bone. The Grand Elder shouted, "Don't be scared, the 3 of us can definitely kill it." Yes. The second elder nodded. Kill. The 3 of them roared and pushed their hands forward. Rumble. 3 great battle arts appeared in the sky, releasing an earth-shattering aura as they rushed towards Wolf King. High-grade battle arts. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but worry. After all, this was the joint attack of 3 9-star combat emperors. It could even be said that this was a fatal blow. Even the 9-star combat emperors wouldn't dare to face the 3 great battle arts head-on. Heh. However, Wolf King wasn't afraid at all. Instead, he was eager to try. The 3 great battle arts arrived in a flash. That terrifying murderous intent shrouded 100 miles of land. Dog-beating stick second form, whirlwind. At the same time, Wolf King swooped down and rushed to the front of the 3 great battle arts. He raised the rib bone on his claws and smashed it. Rumble. Under countless people's incredulous gazes, the 3 great battle arts collapsed in an instant. How is this possible? Patriarch Lu and the other 2 stared at him in disbelief. One must know. Not only were they 9-star combat emperors, but they were also using high-grade battle arts. However, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. They must be dreaming. Swoosh. While they were distracted, Wolf King used the void escape step and appeared in front of them in a few flashes. Hehe. Dog beating stick third form, beating the mad dog. He laughed sinisterly. He grabbed the rib bone with his claws and smashed them on the heads with lightning speed. Bang. The 3 of them immediately screamed and shot down like meteorites. Their heads were all broken and bleeding, and they saw stars in front of their eyes. Boom. At last. Along with a loud bang, the 3 of them crashed into a hall below. The hall was razed to the ground in an instant. Billowing dust and smoke rose to the sky, covering half of the Lu family. So powerful. Patriarch Lu, the first and second patriarchs of the Lu family, are no match for him? What kind of divine item are the 2 bones on his claws? The people in the void far away were all stunned, including Yin Yuanming and the lady in purple. Wolf King stood in the sky proudly. He waved his claws and a gust of wind blew away the dust below. A deep pit appeared. Patriarch Lu and the other 2 stood at the bottom of the deep pit. Their hair was disheveled and their faces were dirty. Blood was flowing from their heads. The severe pain made their faces contort. Blood dyed their faces red. At this moment, they were like bloody demons from purgatory. They looked particularly ferocious. How does my dog-beating 3 form feel? The Wolf King chuckled. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. The first patriarch roared as if he had gone mad. Boom. A gigantic creature, carrying a terrifying ferocious aura, soared into the air from behind. The second patriarch also activated his fighting soul. Fighting soul? Qin Feiyang was stunned. As if he suddenly thought of something, a trace of suspicion appeared in his eyes. Then, he lowered his head and pondered. Then he looked at Wolf King. Seeing the first patriarch and second patriarch activating their fighting souls, a sinister smile appeared in his eyes. Seeing the sinister smile in Wolf King's eyes, Patriarch Lu felt uneasy. But what exactly made him feel uneasy he couldn't tell. Roar. All of a sudden, accompanied by an earth-shattering roar, a giant golden figure appeared in the void behind the Wolf King. That's right. That's his fighting soul. Patriarch Lu's expression changed and he hurriedly shouted, First Patriarch, Second Patriarch, it can rob us of our fighting souls. Quickly withdraw your fighting souls. Rob. Wolf King's low roar exploded in the void. Oh no. The first patriarch and second patriarch finally remembered the terrifying power of Wolf King's fighting soul. Activating their fighting souls in front of this ruffian wolf was simply sending themselves to death. Immediately, the 2 of them didn't dare to hesitate and quickly recalled their fighting souls. Why are you recalling them? If you don't activate your fighting souls, Do you still have a chance of winning? Activate them all. I'll be merciful this time and not devour your fighting souls. Wolf King said seriously. Who would believe you? The three of them glared at each other. At the same time, they began to regret. If they knew that Rib was so powerful, they wouldn't have agreed to the challenge. So boring. I heard that the 3 patriarchs are also 9-star combat emperors, and there are many 8-star combat emperors. Let's just let them come together. I'll play with you. Wolf King's purpose wasn't to kill the 3 patriarchs, but to force the 3 patriarchs out. If the 3 patriarchs didn't show up, then there was no doubt that the person who pretended to be Ming was this person. The 3 patriarchs were silent, and their faces were gloomy. As long as Ruffian Wolf had Rib, it didn't matter how many people came. Unless it was a combat master. Suddenly, Patriarch Lu intentionally or unintentionally glanced behind Qin Feiyang. And a cold light flashed in his eyes. He saw that housekeeper Lu had sneaked behind Qin Feiyang. Moreover, he was quietly approaching Qin Feiyang. As for Qin Feiyang, he still had his head lowered, and no one knew what he was thinking. He didn't seem to notice housekeeper Lu's approach. As long as housekeeper Lu's sneak attack is successful, Ruffian Wolf is no longer a threat. What we need to do now is to divert Ruffian Wolf's attention, and not let him discover us. Patriarch Lu secretly thought, then looked up at Wolf King and sneered. If not for those 2 ribs, killing you would be easier than slaughtering a dog. If you don't believe me, you can come and try. Don't say such useless words. Hurry up and summon everyone from your Lu clan. Wolf King disdainfully said. At this time, housekeeper Lu was only 10 meters away from Qin Feiyang. Whoosh. Suddenly, his old eyes were filled with killing intent, and like a flash of lightning, he rushed towards Qin Feiyang. In an instant, in the palm of his hand, battle chi surged. A palm struck towards Qin Feiyang's back. Success. Patriarch Lu was overjoyed. The 2 patriarchs' eyes were also shining. Sneak attack? Steward Lu's murderous aura naturally alarmed the Wolf King. But it only took a glance, and then withdrew its gaze without the slightest worry. And it also took the opportunity to attack Patriarch Lu and the other 2 people in the deep pit below. In the blink of an eye, on housekeeper Lu's old face, there was already a cruel smile, and the sneak attack was about to succeed. But at this time, Qin Feiyang, who was motionless, suddenly stepped out. Housekeeper Lu's palm struck empty air, and the smile on his old face suddenly froze. How was it possible for him to dodge that? Before he could stabilize his body, a bone-piercing killing intent attacked from behind. Following closely, housekeeper Lu felt a heart-wrenching pain coming from his back. He saw Qin Feiyang standing behind housekeeper Lu, and his fingertips were gushing out strands of red sword chi. No! Patriarch Lu suddenly screamed in horror. But the next moment, the red sword chi was like a sharp arrow, tearing through flesh and blood. It entered his back and pierced through his chest, leaving behind a fist-sized bloody hole. Chapter 435. Steward. Patriarch Lu roared. The Grand Elder and the Grand Elder were also furious. Although Steward Lu was weak, his loyalty and ability were impeccable. Steward Lu's position in their hearts could be said to be more important than any other disciple in the clan. How could they not be angry when he died in front of them? Swoosh! The 3 of them looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes glinting fiercely. You inhumane bastard! The heavens will not forgive you if I don't kill you! Patriarch Lu roared and rushed toward Qin Feiyang with a murderous aura. The heavens will not forgive you! Are you fucking kidding me? The Lu family dares to launch a sneak attack. If little Qin Zi is a bastard, then you are worse than a bastard. But at this moment, Wolf King arrived. The 2 ribs on his claws mercilessly smashed toward Patriarch Lu's head. Patriarch Lu's expression changed, and he quickly turned around to escape. Bang! The 2 ribs smashed into his back, and with a cracking sound, his spine was shattered. Ah! Patriarch Lu was once again sent flying with a scream, and blood spurted out from his mouth. You 2 old bastards, don't run if you have the guts. Wolf King charged toward the Grand Elder and the Grand Elder with a murderous aura. The 2 of them also changed their expressions and fled in panic. High up in the sky, Housekeeper Lu breathed his last and fell down. Swoosh! At this moment, dozens of figures soared into the sky with an imposing aura. The 7 old men in the lead all had an unfathomable aura. The group of people behind the 7 of them were also war emperors. One of the old women in black caught Steward Lu and said in a deep voice, "Steward Lu is dead." The group of people immediately looked at Qin Feiyang, their eyes flashing with a shocking murderous aura. "What? You want to gang up on me?" Qin Feiyang glanced at them. These people were the old monsters of the Lu family. The weakest among them was a 5-star combat emperor. The aura of the strongest 7 was comparable to Yan Nanshan's. They were all 8-star combat emperors. With such a powerful lineup, it could be said that Qin Feiyang had no chance of winning if they really fought. However, there was not the slightest bit of fear on his face, because he had something to rely on, a trump card. "You killed a member of my Lu clan. Today, I'll make you pay with your blood," the black-clothed old woman shouted. "He attacked me first. What's wrong with me killing him? Now you're blaming me. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed. "Cut the crap. Everyone, let's attack together and cripple him," the black-clothed old woman coldly shouted. Without any explanation, the group of people rushed towards Qin Feiyang with great momentum. Qin Feiyang shook his head. He felt rather helpless when faced with such shameless people. Wolf King, who was in the middle of chasing after the 3 elders, was immediately enraged when he saw the situation. He roared, "Little Qinzi, why don't we wipe out the Lu family today?" "Wipe out the Lu family?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the dozens of people, his eyes flashing. Suddenly, wisps of murderous aura burst out of his body. "All right. Wipe out the Lu family." Qin Feiyang nodded. At this moment, he was like the god of death, his eyes extremely cold. Clang! Chang Shui appeared out of thin air. He grabbed Chang Shui, and a shocking aura erupted in all directions like a volcanic eruption. How dare they threaten to wipe out the Lu family? Are they crazy? If they alert the Lu family's patriarch, they won't be able to survive. The people in the void far away were all dumbfounded. This man and wolf were so crazy that they had reached the point of lawlessness. Arrogant. The dozens of people from the Lu family were also seething with anger. "Whether I'm arrogant or not, you'll know soon enough. White-eyed wolf, delay those 3 old men. I want them to see their clansmen die one by one," Qin Feiyang shouted. Swoosh! As soon as he finished his words, he used the phantom steps and dashed towards the group of people without fear, his eyes fixed on 20 of them. These 20 people were all 5-star combat emperors. His first target was to eliminate these 20 people. "I don't know if they're dead or alive." The eyes of the old woman in black and the other 6 people turned cold. With a wave of their hands, expanses of dazzling and resplendent battle chi surged towards Qin Feiyang with overwhelming force. Terrifying murderous aura filled every corner of the place. "You're just 8-star combat emperors. What are you being so arrogant for?" Ultimate void. Qin Feiyang pointed his finger at the sky. An invisible force turned into a rolling torrent and roared. Boom. At this moment, the battle chi of the old woman in black and the other 6 exploded in the void, and a destructive airwave swept across all directions. The 7 of them took a step back. Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Although the ultimate void could increase his combat strength to that of an 8-star combat emperor, the 7 of them were real 8-star combat emperors. He would definitely not be able to withstand the joint attack of the 7 of them. The chi and blood in his body were surging, and the arm that used the ultimate void cracked and blood instantly dyed his whole body red. But the battle intent that overflowed from his body was getting more and more terrifying. Boom. He stepped on the void and used the phantom steps to the extreme. He was like a blood-soaked god of war, rushing towards the group of people once again. The sky was filled with the phantoms he left behind. His shocking aura made people tremble in fear. The old woman in black and the other 6 people looked at each other and waved their hands to perform the battle arts. Kill. 7 battle arts appeared in the sky, and all of them were superior battle arts. Their terrifying power shook the heavens and earth. Boom. The 7 battle arts drowned Qin Feiyang, and turned him into ashes in an instant. However, there were no screams, and no blood gushed out. Not good. It's an illusion. The 7 people's expressions changed. Guyuan sword art, annihilation. At the same time, a bone-chilling voice suddenly sounded from behind, like a devil from hell, making people feel cold all over. The group of people suddenly turned around, including the old woman in black and the other 6 people. Immediately, they saw Qin Feiyang standing in the void behind them. He raised his arm and a red sword aura burst out from his fingertips. Clang! In the blink of an eye, 20 sword shadows appeared in the sky. Their terrifying sharpness swept across the sky and slashed towards the group of people. Quick! The old woman in black shouted. Boom! Roar! The group of people used various techniques. Some activated their battle souls. Some used their battle arts. They blasted towards the 20 sword shadows. Clang! Crack! Boom! At that moment, loud noises resounded, shaking the heavens and earth. Terrifying auras swept out in all directions like tsunamis in the ocean. In the sky, the sword shadows were collapsing, the battle arts were disintegrating, and the battle souls were also collapsing. Qin Feiyang's body shook violently and he kept retreating, blood spurting out from his mouth. This is not good. Yin Yuanming whispered. The lady in purple nodded. The Lu family's lineup was very strong. 7 8-star combat emperors, 11 7-star combat emperors, 15 6-star combat emperors, and 25-star combat emperors. Moreover, all of them had mastered high-grade battle arts. Qin Feiyang's combat strength was indeed shocking. If it was a one-on-one battle, he would be able to crush a 7-star combat emperor. He even had the strength to fight an 8-star combat emperor. However, it was too much for him to fight against 10 people alone. To be exact, he was simply courting death. Let's kill him in one go. The old woman in black shouted. The aura of the group of people from the Lu family skyrocketed. Waves of battle arts and battle souls crushed the sword shadows and blasted towards Qin Feiyang. Yin Yuanming's eyelids twitched. He turned to look at the lady in purple and said in a low voice, Pavilion Master, are you not going to help him? Of course I will. However, since he dares to say that he will massacre the Lu family, he must have some hidden trump cards. Let's wait for a while more. The lady in purple said, locking her gaze on Qin Feiyang. Her eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Trump cards? Yin Yuanming frowned and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. He was stunned. Although Qin Feiyang was covered in blood and his face was as pale as paper, he did not show the slightest bit of nervousness or fear in the face of the battle arts and battle souls. His eyes were filled with a deathly stillness. Until now, he was still so confident. It seemed like this little guy really had something to rely on. In the blink of an eye, the battle souls and battle arts had arrived in front of Qin Feiyang. At this moment, almost no one believed that he could turn the tables and turn the situation around. The servants and disciples of the Lu family, including the old woman in black, were all smiling brightly. This time, they would definitely send this little bastard to hell. Moreover, as long as Qin Feiyang died, the Lu family's current predicament would be resolved. At that time, the Zhenbao Pavilion would definitely beg them for help. But just as they were indulging in their fantasies, Qin Feiyang made another move. He put away the Changshui and stepped into the void. After stabilizing his body, he stretched out his hands and golden light burst out from his palms. A shocking scene appeared. The battle arts and battle souls stopped in the void in front of Qin Feiyang, and were in a stalemate with Qin Feiyang. How could this be? The old woman in black and the others were shocked. Puff! At the same time, Qin Feiyang's body shook, and blood spurted out from his mouth. His 2 arms were lacerated and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The heart-wrenching pain caused his veins to bulge and his face to become distorted. Although the return formula was extremely powerful, there was a limit to it. Now the combined attack of dozens of people from the Lu family was far beyond what he could withstand. However, at this moment he could not fail or give up. Because once he gave up, the battle arts and battle souls in front of him could instantly tear him into pieces and destroy him. Crack! The bones in his arms began to break. So what if you can block it? You'll still die in the end. The dozens of people from the Lu family sneered. Little Qinzi, Wolf King shouted anxiously, and his eyes were filled with worry. The Grand Elder and the other two seized the opportunity and punched the Wolf King. Roar! It released an anguished howl. And like a meteor, it shot into the heavens, dyeing the sky red with blood. Qin Feiyong raised his head and looked at Wolf King. The murderous aura in his body suddenly burst out. At this moment, it was as if he was possessed by a demon. His entire body was surrounded by blood-red murderous aura. The Lu family. I'll destroy you bit by bit. I'll make you disappear from the city. His face was ferocious and hysterical. The word return appeared on his palm. Crack. Boom. In an instant, the battle souls and battle arts in front of him suddenly turned in the air and rolled toward the old woman in black and the others. At the same time, both of his hands were also shattered into pieces. However, he seemed to be unable to feel the pain. With a thought, a regeneration pill and a healing pill appeared out of thin air, and he swallowed them. Then, Chapter 436. How could this be? How could the battle arts and fighting souls be reflected back? What did Qin Feiyong do just now? Seeing this scene, the people who were watching the battle from afar all glared at the scene. I heard that the same thing happened when he fought with Dong Qing. Could this be a battle art? Yin Yuanming was surprised. Is there such a battle art in this world? The lady in purple whispered. Everyone in the Lu family turned pale with fright. How could it be reflected back? They all felt like they were dreaming. Old Four, get out of the way. The three elders who were not far away saw the black-clothed old woman and the others, and were shocked by the sudden scene. They quickly shouted. But it was too late. The battle arts and fighting souls swarmed and drowned the group of people. Immediately, screams resounded through the sky. 25 star combat emperors were torn into pieces in an instant. 15 6-star combat emperors wanted to escape, but the fighting souls and battle arts were too fierce and unstoppable. In less than 3 breaths, their blood was splattered all over the place. The black-clothed old woman and 11 7-star combat emperors escaped. This was because their strength and speed were one level higher than the 5 and 6-star combat emperors. But even though they managed to escape, they were still severely injured. The 11 7-star combat emperors were beyond recognition. They were covered in blood, and their eyes, which were full of vigor, were now filled with weakness. A few of them even had their arms crushed and blood gushed out. At this moment, they were like arrows at the end of their flight. The black-clothed old woman and the other 6 were slightly better, but they were also covered with cuts and bruises, and were on the verge of death. The people who were watching from afar were dumbfounded. Originally, they thought that Qin Feiyong would definitely die. But they never expected that Qin Feiyong could turn the situation around with just one move. And it also caused a huge loss to the Lu family. One must know, the 5 and 6-star combat emperors were the mainstays of the Lu family. Now that they were all dead, it was an irreparable wound to the Lu family. Damned beast. I swear that I will tear you into pieces. The eyes of the Grand Elder, the Second Elder, and the Patriarch of the Lu clan all turned blood red. They roared at the same time and raised their hands to point at the air. 3 streams of battle chi streaked across the sky and shot towards Qin Feiyong. Roar. But at this moment, Wolf King descended from the sky and stood behind Qin Feiyong. His millstone-sized eyes emitted a terrifying and ominous glint. You are the ones who will die. The 2 ribs crushed the 3 battle chis, causing them to crumble. Following closely, Wolf King used the void evasion step, and charged towards the 3 of them furiously like a ferocious beast descending into the world. Its murderous intent was the same as Qin Feiyong's. It had been completely aroused. In the meantime, Qin Feiyong also charged towards the black-clothed old woman and the others. His cold face was like an emotionless death god. The old woman in black stared at Qin Feiyong, and said to the 11 7-stars battle emperors behind her in a deep voice, all of you, go and heal your wounds. Swoosh! The 11 of them did not hesitate and immediately rushed towards the back. Because now, they could no longer be of any help. Staying behind would be equivalent to courting death. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 11 of them, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at the old woman in black and said indifferently, I want to thank all of you. If it wasn't for your help, I wouldn't have been able to wipe out the Liu family. These 7 people were the most powerful. The lethality of their battle arts and battle souls was naturally more shocking. The 25 stars battle emperors and 15 6 stars battle emperors that died were basically killed by the battle souls and battle arts of these 7 people. In other words, it was these 7 people who killed 35 of their family members with their own hands. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the old woman in black and the other 6 people's faces suddenly became ferocious. Bastard! I will tear you apart and cut you into 8 pieces. The 7 of them were in a frenzy. They activated their battle souls and performed their battle arts. Once again, they charged towards Qin Feiyang. Is that so? You will regret it soon. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. A fire lotus rose into the sky. It was his fire lotus battle soul. However, the fire lotus only had 2 fire lotus leaves at the moment. Although the power of the fire lotus leaf's explosion was terrifying, it had a flaw that required a certain amount of time to repair. Every day, it could only repair 1 fire lotus leaf. Not long ago, when he was fighting with Wu Yan and the others in the inner palace, Qin Feiyang had detonated 7 fire lotus leaves. Now there were only 2 fire lotus leaves left. Swoosh! With a thought, the 2 fire lotus leaves fell off and flew towards the 7 battle souls and battle arts. They were about to collide. But suddenly, the 2 fire lotus leaves rose into the sky and avoided the battle souls and battle arts. They whizzed past the 7 people's heads and continued to shoot towards the back. That's right. Qin Feiyang's target was not the 7 people in black, but the 11 7-star combat emperors who had retreated to the back to recuperate. This sudden turn of events caused the 7 of them to be stunned. But then, they saw through Qin Feiyang's intention. They quickly turned around and shouted at the 11 people, his target is all of you. Run. All of us. The 11 people were shocked and quickly fled in fear. Don't you think it's a little too late to escape now? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth lifted. He pursed his lips into a cold smile and shouted, explode! Boom! The 2 fire lotus leaves exploded at the same time, giving birth to a destructive aura that drowned the 11 people in an instant. A blood-curdling scream suddenly sounded and spread in all directions. At the same time, the 7 battle souls and battle arts of the 7 people in black also arrived in front of Qin Feiyang. But this time, he didn't face them head-on. He chose to dodge. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. The battle arts and battle souls of the 7 people in black hit nothing. But the 11 7-star combat emperors of the Liu family were already at the end of their rope. How could they withstand the attack of the fire lotus leaves? Not a single one of them survived. All of them died. The mutilated corpses fell to the ground. Looking at the 11 corpses, the crowd in the distance was dumbfounded. The Liu family had suffered a great loss. One should know that every combat emperor required a large amount of resources and a large amount of time to nurture them. The Liu family had been in the city for so many years, but they had only cultivated 11 7-star combat emperors. But all of them were gone in an instant. Everything they had done before was in vain. To the Liu family, this could be said to be a disaster. The 7 people in black were also stunned. It was as if they couldn't accept this cruel fact and couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. The 3 people in black were also in a daze. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Good job. Wolf King turned around and looked at the corpses. He was very happy, but the battle was not over yet. Swoosh. He turned around and looked at the 3 people in black. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Previously, the 3 of them attacked him while he was distracted. Now he was going to let them have a taste of their own medicine. He used the air escape step and landed in front of the 3 people. Then he smashed 2 of his ribs at them. Patriarch Liu and the other 2 people in black were shocked. They regained their senses and immediately started to run. But they were too late. Bang! 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 The ribs were hard and hard to break. When they were smashed, they screamed and fell to the ground. I won't give you a chance to turn the tables. Wolf King sneered and swooped down. At this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air again. His shattered arm had been repaired. He looked down at Wolf King and shouted, "Kill them. You don't need to tell me. I know." Wolf King's eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Bastard, I'll kill you." At the same time, the black-clothed old woman and the others roared as they charged towards Qin Feiyang, their hearts filled with anger. They had lost their minds. There was only one thought in their minds: kill Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang looked up at the 7 of them. His gaze was grim. Although the 7 of them were heavily injured, they had 8 Star War souls. With the help of their battle techniques and battle souls, he was far from a match for them. Most importantly, there was not a single 9-leaf fire lotus left. The Scarlet Sword Chi had also been depleted. Now his only trump cards were the Chang Shui, the Return Formula, and the Purple Gold Dragon Soul. The Purple Gold Dragon Soul was definitely not activated. Once it was activated, it would alarm the Mansion Master. The Mansion Master would definitely start to suspect something. Therefore he could only use the Chang Shui and the Return Formula now. Whoosh! Golden light shone from his left palm. He held the Chang Shui tightly in his right hand. With these 2 trump cards, he was not afraid of a battle. Boom! However, at this moment, a terrifying aura descended. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled. This was the aura of a battle master. There was no doubt. Old Monster Lu was here. He looked in the direction and immediately saw a fiery red voice piercing through the air. It was a white-haired old man. He wore a bright red robe and looked hale and hearty. Who else could it be but old Monster Lu? However, at this moment, his old face was filled with anger, and his entire body was filled with killing intent. "You're courting death." He glanced at Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King. His old hand pointed in the air, and 2 waves of battle chi shot toward the man and the wolf respectively. His killing intent was bone-chilling. Qin Feiyang shouted, "White-eyed wolf, come here." "Why did you have to come now of all times?" The Wolf King was a little annoyed. This was because if it had a little more time, it would have finished off the Lu family's patriarch and the other 2. "Damn it, I can't work for nothing." It gritted its teeth and continued to charge toward the 3 of them. Just as it was about to close in, the 2 ribs on its claws were like 2 daggers that suddenly stabbed into the first and second elders' sea of chi. Ah! The 2 of them immediately screamed in pain. Seeing this scene, everyone froze. Everyone thought that when old Monster Lu came, Ruffian Wolf would stop. Even Yin Yuanming and the purple-clothed woman thought so. But they didn't expect that it would actually try to kill the 2 elders. Did this guy not want to live anymore? This bastard. Qin Feiyang was also a little stunned, but he was the first to regain his senses. After cursing in his heart, he swooped down towards the Wolf King like lightning. Wolf King pulled out 2 ribs, and was also prepared to get rid of the Lu family's patriarch. At this moment, old Monster Lu also came back to his senses. "Bastard, you really deserve to die." Immediately, with a furious roar, the pressure of the War Master roared out, enveloping dozens of li of land. In an instant, Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King were imprisoned in the air. As for the 2 streams of battle chi that shot out, they were firmly locked onto the man and the wolf. "Little Qinzi, what should we do?" The Wolf King anxiously roared. "How would I know? Just wait for death." Qin Feiyang was incomparably furious. The pressure of the War Master was not something that the War Emperor could compare to. Chapter 437. You're dead meat. The black-clothed old woman and her group of 7 glanced coldly at Qin Feiyang, and began to retreat. Patriarch Lu also retreated with the Grand Elder, and the other 2, because old Monster Lu was too strong. If they were to approach Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, they would definitely be implicated. "Pavilion Master, it's your turn." Yin Yuanming turned to look at the purple-clothed woman. Right now, only the Pavilion Master could save Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. To be exact, it was Wolf King. Because Qin Feiyang could hide in the castle at any time, he was not afraid of old Monster Dong at all. The purple-clothed woman glanced at old Monster Lu and took a step forward. But at this moment, A cold voice sounded. So many people against a child. Does your Lu family still know what shame is? Before he could finish his words, a man and a woman descended from the sky. It was Lu Yun Nanshan. Lu Yun's aura was even stronger than before. Obviously, she had already consumed the 9-chew yellow dragon pill. Before entering the inner hall, Qin Feiyang had given her 6 pills, 3 potential pills, 2 potential pills, and 1 9-chew yellow dragon pill. Although Lu Yun was a 9-star war emperor, and the 9-chew yellow dragon pill could not allow her to directly step into the war master, it could help her break through the bottleneck. Just like Yin Nanshan back then, he only needed to cultivate for a few more hours, and he would be able to easily enter the war master. And now, the aura she exuded was that of a 1-star war master. Looks like I don't need to do anything. The purple-clothed woman muttered. Glancing at Yin Nanshan and Lu Yun, she immediately retracted her steps. Qin Feiyang was also overjoyed and shouted, Uncle Yan, Elder Lu, don't worry about me. Quickly go and help the white-eyed wolf. Hearing this, the two of them immediately flew towards Wolf King. Break for me. At the same time, Qin Feiyang roared. His teeth bared and the veins all over his body bulged. With a loud bang, he finally broke free from the shackles and disappeared in the next moment. Bastard! He actually let him run away again. The black-clothed old woman and the others were furious. Swish! Lu Yun and Yin Nanshan were also standing in front of Wolf King. Lu Yun looked at the incoming battle chi and whispered, Old Monster Lu is a 2-star combat grandmaster. He can't be underestimated. Understood. Yin Nanshan nodded. Boom. The two of them waved their hands and formed 2 great battle arts, which blasted toward the battle chi. With a loud bang, the battle chi was instantly annihilated. Old Monster Lu frowned. Next, with a thought, the battle chi that was originally shooting towards Qin Feiyang suddenly changed direction and shot towards Wolf King from behind. Looks like he won't give up until he kills Wolf King. Yin Nanshan and Lu Yun's eyes turned cold. At the same time, he waved his hand, and the 2 battle arts rotated in the air before hurtling toward the battle chi. Boom! His battle chi collapsed again. Old Monster Lu frowned and looked at Lu Yun. When did you break through to become a 1-star battle ancestor? What? Elder Lu has also broken through to War Master. With the addition of Yin Nanshan, Sacred Hall is even stronger now. The crowd in the distance discussed in low voices. The old woman in black and the others also looked at Lu Yun in surprise. Lu Yun swept his gaze across the 7 of them, looked at Old Monster Lu, and said coldly, This is my private matter. It has nothing to do with you. Also, if you dare to make a move again, then this elder can only take it that your Lu family is declaring war on my sacred hall, she added. Declaration of war? Old Monster Lu was instantly enraged and shouted, Don't you have eyes? It's clearly those 2 little bastards who are behaving atrociously in my Lu family. Shua. At this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared, and with a few flashes, he landed beside Yin Nanshan and Lu Yun. Wolf King also retracted his ribs, turned into the size of a palm, and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Can't the 2 of you stop for a moment? Yin Nanshan turned his head and glared at them. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King smiled embarrassedly. Yin Nanshan rolled his eyes and said expressionlessly, Speak, what's going on? It's like this. We're here to challenge the Lu family, and the Lu family had agreed. But they couldn't beat the white-eyed wolf, so they got Steward Lu to sneak an attack on me. I definitely wouldn't sit still and wait for death. In the end, I accidentally killed Steward Lu. That's enough. We've stirred up a hornet's nest. Those shameless old fools from the Lu family immediately came up to kill me. I had no choice but to retaliate. Qin Feiyang shrugged helplessly. Lu Yun frowned and said, Then why did you challenge them? I was just itching to spar with them, but who would have thought that they would be so despicable? This Lu family is really a huge disgrace to the state capital. Wolf King said indignantly. They are indeed despicable. Lu Yun scoffed and looked up at the Lu family's patriarch. He asked, You heard it too, right? Do you think there's a need to pursue this matter? Old Monster Lu's face sank as he looked at the Lu family head and shouted, Is that true? The Lu family head stammered. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, Lu family head, there are many people around who witnessed the entire process. Don't lie through your teeth. Shut up. The Lu family head roared, his gaze extremely sinister. Old monster Lu glanced at the crowd in the distance and lowered his head to look coldly at the Lu family head. He shouted, Answer me. The Lu family head's body trembled as he nodded and said, Patriarch, that's indeed the case. Don't you have a brain? If they wanted to challenge you, wouldn't you reject them? Old monster Lu flew into a rage. The Lu family head hurriedly said, They said that as long as we win, they will remove the ban on Precious Treasure Pavilion. Stupid. Don't you know who they are? Why would they be so kind? It's fine if they lost, but they actually got the steward to sneak an attack on him. They even ganged up on him. Aren't you humiliating our Lu family by doing this? How can our Lu family establish itself in the state capital in the future? You really have a pig's brain. Old monster Lu glared at the Lu family head, so angry that his body was trembling. I was wrong. The Lu family head lowered his head, his face also full of regret. Qin Feiyang said, I say, can you give me the bet first, then slowly teach him a lesson? Bet. Old monster Lu was stunned and frowned. What bet? All the savings of your Lu family. This is what the Lu family had personally agreed to. Don't try to go back on your word. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. What? Old monster Lu's eyes widened in anger. Yin Nanshan and Lu Yin were also extremely shocked. The Lu family was now banned by Precious Treasure Pavilion. If they lost their savings, they would be dead. He actually dared to make such a huge bet? Was this Lu family head an idiot? Old monster Lu suddenly looked at the Lu family head and said, Tell me this is not true. Patriarch, The Lu family had lowered his head, not daring to speak, nor did he dare to look at old monster Lu's eyes. Why would I leave the Lu family to an idiot like you to manage? Old monster Lu cried out in grief. Puff! Immediately, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression also became haggard. In an instant, old monster Lu seemed to have changed into a different person. The black-clothed old woman said, Patriarch, although we agreed, he killed so many of our clansmen. It should be enough to offset it, right? Do you still have any shame? I killed them because you guys made the first move. Don't tell me I'll just stand here and let you guys kill me? If you still think you haven't lost enough face, then continue. Qin Feiyang smiled obsequiously. The black-clothed old woman was furious to the extreme and roared, Little bastard, if you have the guts, fight me one-on-one to the death. To be honest, I'm not afraid of you. Qin Feiyang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes filled with disdain. Then come. The black-clothed old woman took a step forward, her entire body filled with hostility. Enough. My old face has been completely lost by you guys. If you're willing to bet, you're willing to admit defeat. Immediately take out all your savings and give it to them. Old monster Lu roared. Patriarch. The Lu family head, the black-clothed old woman, and the other 7 people, as well as the servants and disciples of the Lu family below, all changed their expressions. I don't want to say it a second time. Old monster Lu said word by word. Obviously, he was on the verge of exploding. The Lu family head's body and mind trembled. He hurriedly brought the Grand Elder and Second Elder, and flew to the black-clothed old woman and the other 7 people. After handing over the Grand Elder and Second Elder to the 7 people, they dived down to the main hall below. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, Uncle Yan, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip here, in case he hides something. Okay. Yin Nanshan nodded and turned into a ray of light, chasing after the Lu family head. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the Grand Elder and Second Elder. Both of them were unconscious and their lower abdomens were still bleeding. White-eyed wolf, did you destroy their qi? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice to Yin Nanshan. 100%. Wolf King said. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. 2 9-star combat emperors were crippled. 11 7-star combat emperors, 15 6-star combat emperors, and 25-star combat emperors were killed. He even obtained all of the Lu family's savings. It could be considered a successful bloodbath. He glanced at the black-clothed old woman and the others and whispered, Elder Lu, can you help me check if the Lu family's third elder is present? Why? You still want to kill him? Lu Yun raised his eyebrows. With old monster Lu around, how would I dare? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. I don't think there's anything you don't dare to do. Lu Yun rolled his eyes and sighed. To be honest, I'm very worried that one day, you will become the enemy of the entire world. There's no need to worry. Even if we exterminate the Lu family, no one will dare to do anything to us. Wolf King chuckled. Ha! Lu Yun was stunned and said in surprise, You're that confident? Wolf King said proudly. Of course, we have someone backing us. Someone is backing us. Lu Yun's body trembled and asked, Who is it? It's... Seeing that Wolf King was getting carried away and was about to spill the beans, Qin Feiyang hurriedly coughed dryly and glared at it. Lu Yun looked at the man and wolf suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Elder Lu, don't listen to its nonsense. Help me check if the third elder is present. Is it nonsense? Lu Yun muttered inwardly. He glanced at the black-clothed old woman and the others before lowering his head to scan the huge Lu family. Gradually, a hint of bewilderment appeared in her eyes. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang asked in a low voice. Strange, such a big thing happened. Even old monster Lu was alarmed. Why didn't the third elder appear? Lu Yun frowned. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other as a cold glint flashed across their eyes. That's right. Chapter 438. Wolf King transmitted his voice. Little Qinzi, can we eliminate the Lu family now? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. But after some thought he said, Wait, there's something I'm puzzled about. What is it? Wolf King asked. When I saw the first and second elders activate their war souls, I suddenly thought of a problem. A person's appearance can be changed, but their war soul is absolutely impossible to change. Qin Feiyang said. That's right. Wolf King nodded. Qin Feiyang said, I remember that when Ming fought with you in the martial arts practice field, he activated his fighting soul, right? Wolf King transmitted his voice. Yes, his war soul was taken by me. If this Ming is really the third elder in disguise, why didn't Lu Yun recognize him when he activated his war soul? Qin Feiyang said. Yes, why? It's so strange. Wolf King was bewildered. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he turned to Lu Yun and said, Elder, have you seen Ming's war soul before the temple's grand tournament? Lu Yun was stunned, not knowing why Qin Feiyang suddenly asked such a question, but he answered truthfully, I've been with him for so many years, so of course I've seen it. It's a leopard-shaped beast. Qin Feiyang asked, Have you seen the war soul of the third elder? The war soul of the third elder? Lu Yun pondered for a moment and shook his head. No, because I don't have much interaction with the Lu family, and the third elder rarely appears. Qin Feiyang nodded. Whoosh. At this moment, Yan Nanshan flew over, took out a Qianquan bag from his bosom, and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Thank you, Uncle Yan. Qin Feiyang took it and said with a smile. Why are you being so polite with me? Yan Nanshan rolled his eyes. He looked up at old monster Lu and said, Can we go now? Old monster Lu said, Go ahead. Yan Nanshan retracted his gaze and whispered, Feiyang, hurry up and return to the inner hall, lest the Lu clan finds trouble with you again. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I have to go to the Saint Palace and borrow the alchemy room. Lu Yun asked in puzzlement, Isn't there an alchemy room in the inner sanctum? Qin Feiyang said, Let's go to the Holy Palace first. All right. Lu Yun looked at him helplessly and opened a teleportation door. The four of them quickly left. Ancestor, what should we do now? Patriarch Lu, the old woman in black, and the others immediately flew over to eccentric Lu and looked at him with pleading eyes. You still have the face to ask me? Old monster Lu glared at them angrily. The 8 of them lowered their heads. Alas! Old monster Lu let out a long sigh and asked, How's the situation with the first and second elders? They are only unconscious now, but their sea of qi is broken. When they wake up, they will be crippled. The old woman in black said sorrowfully. That damned beast. I will kill it sooner or later. Old Monster Lu's face was as dark as water. Intense killing intent surged in his eyes. There will be a chance to eliminate Qin Feiyang and Ruffian Wolf at any time. The most important thing now is to solve the problem of resources. If we don't solve it in time, I'm afraid our Lu family will be in chaos soon. A white-haired old man said worriedly. Old Monster Lu nodded and took a deep breath. I'll go to the Manor Lord and see if he can get Lu Xingqian and Run Wushuang married as soon as possible. Before that, you have to appease the people. Patriarch Lu and the others nodded. As long as Lu Xingqian and Run Wushuang married, Precious Treasure Pavilion would no longer dare to ban the Lu family. The Holy Palace. Qin Feiyang and the others appeared in the sky above the square outside the Pillfire Hall. Isn't that senior brother Qin? Why is he back again? As soon as the disciples in the square saw Qin Feiyang's appearance, they revealed a suspicious expression. High in the sky, Lu Yun looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Can you tell me now? I promised Yin Yuanming that he would give us pills with 2 patterns every month. The inner hall has a 4th grade Pillfire. The pills refined have 3 patterns. I don't want anyone to know that I can refine pills with 3 patterns, so I can only come to the Holy Palace." Qin Feiyang smiled. Lu Yun said in realization, "So that's how it is." Qin Feiyang sized up Lu Yun and asked, "Elder, have you consumed the potential pills and potential pills?" "Yes. After sending you to the inner hall, I immediately came to find Yen Nanshan. It was also Yen Nanshan who helped me open the door of potential. In short, I have to thank you properly." Lu Yun smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "You have helped me so many times. I should be the one thanking you." "All right, don't stand on ceremony. If you have any difficulties in the future, send me a message. Although I might not dote on you like Yen Nanshan, at least I won't leave you in the lurch," Lu Yun said. Yen Nanshan rubbed his nose and asked, "Did I dote on him?" Lu Yun said indifferently, "You know very well whether you did or not." Yen Nanshan couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. After chatting for a while, Yen Nanshan and Lu Yun left. Qin Feiyang also landed on the square. After greeting Elder Di and Lu Yun, he entered the Pillfire Hall. Soon, he arrived at the door of Alchemy Room 2. But at this moment, the stone door of Alchemy Room 1 opened, and a white-robed man walked out. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other. Why was it Xiaohong? But after thinking about it for a while, he felt relieved. Qin Feiyang and Morongjing had both gone to the inner hall. Lu Ziyuan and Dongcheng were also dead. Now, Xiaohong's talent was the best. And with Xiaohong's flamboyant personality, he would definitely occupy Alchemy Room 1 immediately after Morongjing left. Seeing Qin Feiyang suddenly appear, Xiaohong was a little stunned. When he came back to his senses, he asked nervously, "Why are you back?" Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "Don't worry, I'm not here to snatch your alchemy room. I just want to borrow your alchemy room." "Borrow?" Xiaohong frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "Why do you look like you don't welcome me?" Xiaohong's pupils constricted. He hurriedly retreated to the side and said with a smile, "Welcome, of course you're welcome. You can use it for as long as you want. Please come in." What a joke. Would he dare to refuse if this fierce man wanted to borrow his alchemy room? He didn't want to follow in Lu Ziyuan and Dongcheng's footsteps. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, turned around and strode in. This was his first time entering Alchemy Room 1. In fact, it wasn't much different from Alchemy Room 2. It was just slightly bigger. After looking around casually, Qin Feiyang walked into the alchemy room and took out the Grade 3 alchemy furnace, the 9-yang cauldron. Xiaohong stood outside the alchemy room and said, "I just received news that you and Wolf King had a great show of power in the Lu family. Is that true?" Qin Feiyang smiled without turning his head. "You're quite well informed." Xiaohong's gaze trembled. How could this man and Wolf be so bold? Suddenly, a glint flashed across his eyes. What kind of elixir was Qin Feiyang preparing to refine? Could it be the potential elixir? If it was really the potential elixir, then he couldn't miss this good opportunity. Even if he couldn't learn it, he would know what kind of herbs were used to refine the potential elixir. As long as he knew these herbs, with his Xiao family's financial resources, he would be able to take all the herbs in the entire spiritual state. At that time, when Qin Feiyang needed herbs, wouldn't he have to beg him? The idea was beautiful. But would Qin Feiyang give him this opportunity? Of course not. Qin Feiyang said, "When I'm refining pills, I don't like outsiders around. Can you leave for a while?" Huh. Xiao Hong was slightly stunned and immediately became annoyed. "This is my alchemy room, okay? Is it yours?" Wolf King turned around and looked at him unkindly. "Isn't it?" Xiao Hong frowned. "Think about it carefully. Is it really yours?" Wolf King's eyes became more and more unfriendly. Xiao Hong's brows furrowed tighter and tighter, but suddenly he shuddered and hurriedly said, No, 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 it's yours. It's yours. I'll go out immediately." After saying that, he left the alchemy room with a belly full of unwillingness. At the same time, in his heart, a thick anger surged out uncontrollably. Not only did he occupy the alchemy room, he even threatened him. Did he really think he was the boss? Just wait, he would get his revenge sooner or later. After a while, Qin Feiyang walked out and said with a smile, "Thank you." Xiao Hong immediately piled up a smile on his face and waved his hand. "You're welcome. If you need it again next time, just come directly." There will definitely be a next time. Qin Feiyang smiled, opened a portal and walked in with Wolf King. Fuck. Can't you tell that I'm just being polite? Bastard, you can continue to be arrogant. I'll see how long you can be arrogant. As soon as the portal dissipated, Xiao Hong immediately jumped up and cursed angrily. Treasure Pavilion. Qin Feiyang appeared in the lounge, and immediately saw Yin Yuanming sitting calmly beside the tea table. Moreover, it was as if he had already known that Qin Feiyang would come, and had already brewed tea. Yin Yuanming chuckled and said, "My big gold lord, you're finally here. Please take a seat." Qin Feiyang sat opposite Yin Yuanming. Looking at the teacup on the tea table, his face twitched. This old fellow was indeed very shrewd. Without any nonsense, he directly took out a jade box and threw it to Yin Yuanming. Yin Yuanming opened it, and saw that there were only 3 pills inside. 2 red fire-colored glass pills, 1 potential pill. He was stunned, looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, "I've been waiting for you for a long time, and this is all you give me? Too little? Then give it back to me." Qin Feiyang reached out to snatch it back. Don't. Yin Yuanming hurriedly put it away and said with a smile, "What I mean is pills like Battle Chi pill and Regeneration pill. Can you also refine some for me?" "I don't have time now. We'll talk about it later. I want to ask you something," Qin Feiyang said. "What is it?" Yin Yuanming was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you know what the battle soul of the 3 elders of the Lu family is?" He didn't want to drop the ball at a critical moment, so this matter had to be investigated clearly. Yin Yuanming thought for a moment and shook his head. "I've never seen it before. Is it important?" "If it's important, I'll help you ask around." "It's very important." Qin Feiyang nodded. Yin Yuanming was stunned and said, "What's so important about a battle soul? I really don't know what you're thinking all day long." Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Just help me ask around, the sooner the better." "Okay." Yin Yuanming nodded and his old eyes flashed. "Do you still have the Juku yellow dragon pill you gave me last time?" "What do you want to do?" Qin Feiyang frowned. "If this thing is auctioned, it will definitely be sold at an unprecedented price, creating an unsurpassable legend." Yin Yuanming's eyes lit up. Swish. Qin Feiyang directly got up, opened a portal and said, "Get rid of this idea as soon as possible." Chapter 439. He would never auction the Juku Yellow Dragon pill, because the effect was too heaven-defying. If the Dong family or the Lu family obtained it, they would be able to create a war master expert in minutes. This was not a good thing for him. Back in the inner hall, Qin Feiyang did not refine pills. He directly entered the castle, and prepared to copy the Huan character formula. As his strength increased, the people he came into contact with would also become stronger. He had to raise his cultivation as soon as possible. At least before entering the imperial capital, He had to break through to the War Master realm. But when he saw the pangolin, his gaze became strange again. This guy had not broken through yet. Could it be that he was stuck at the 4-star War King level? If this continued, he would not be able to help at all when he entered the imperial capital. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Pangolin, your speed is too slow. Why don't we change our method?" "What method?" The pangolin opened his eyes, which were filled with anticipation. "The reason why your current cultivation speed is so slow is because you haven't opened the door of potential. Why don't you take the Juku Yellow Dragon pill first? When you break through to the 9-star War King level and open the first 4 levels of the door of potential, your speed will naturally increase greatly," Qin Feiyang said. "That's a good idea. But I want to be like Brother Wolf and cultivate to the 9-star War King level before taking it. This way, I can rush to the 5-star War Emperor." The pangolin said, I'm not trying to discourage you. At your speed, even if you have 50 years, you might not be able to cultivate to the 9-star War King level." Wolf King said disdainfully. The pangolin said angrily, What? Did I say something wrong? When you really cultivate to the 9-star War King level, I might have already stepped into the 9-star War Master. Let me tell you, if you don't do as little Qin Zi says, the gap between you and us will only get bigger and bigger. Wolf King sneered. It seems to make sense. The pangolin muttered. It was rare that he did not argue with Wolf King. Wolf King rolled his eyes and said snappily, Nonsense, it doesn't make sense, it makes sense. All right, I will take the Juku Yellow Dragon pill. The pangolin nodded. Indeed. If this continued, it might not even be qualified to carry the Wolf King's shoes. Not to mention surpassing Wolf King. That's right. Its wish was to beat up Wolf King one day and step on him a few times while it was at it. Qin Feiyang took out a 9-chew Yellow Dragon pill with 5 veins. When the pangolin broke through to the 9-star Battle Monarch realm, it would open the door to its potential with the help of the Wolf King. The whole process had tormented it to death. It really didn't want to do it a second time, but when it thought of the opportunity to beat up Wolf King, it gritted its teeth and persevered. After opening the 4th level of the Gate of Potential, it collapsed onto the ground and couldn't help but twitch all over. Only after a long time did he regain his senses. Qin Feiyang opened the 6-word divine formula and prepared to copy it. However, the image crystal suddenly started to move. When he took it out, Yin Yuanming's illusory image appeared. Yin Yuanming smiled and said, I've asked around. So fast. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Do you think I dare to neglect your matter? As soon as you left, I asked the stewards of the West, North and South City. The steward of the treasure pavilion in the West City had seen the battle soul of the 3rd elder. It's said to be a leopard-shaped battle soul. Yin Yuanming said. That's right. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. Shi Ming's battle soul was also a leopard-shaped battle soul. The 3rd elder could completely impersonate him. And the same battle soul was also relatively common. Yin Yuanming said. Can you tell me your purpose now? You'll know soon. Qin Feiyang smiled mysteriously and turned off the image crystal. Sitting in the treasure pavilion's lounge, Yin Yuanming's face was full of helplessness. Fatso opened his eyes and asked, Boss, can we directly take down the Lu family now? Qin Feiyang said, Definitely. Wolf King's spirit was lifted and immediately lost his enthusiasm for cultivation, and urged, Then what are we waiting for? Let's hurry up and act. Wait. Fatso stretched out his hand and said with a smile, It's too boring to take them down like this. Why don't we add some stakes? What stakes? Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at him suspiciously. Fatso's eyes flashed with a cold light and said, Let Lu Xingchen never have a chance to make a comeback. Wolf King said angrily, Don't keep us in suspense, hurry up and say it. Then, the 2 men and 1 wolf got together and whispered to each other. A moment later, Qin Feiyang's face twitched and said speechlessly, You can even think of such a despicable thing. I really admire your brain. Despicable? Fatso asked. It's not despicable at all, but very interesting. It's decided so happily. Wolf King laughed sinisterly. You have to strike while the iron is hot, boss. Hurry up and do it. Fatso urged. Qin Feiyang looked at them helplessly, closed the 6-word divine art, and nodded. Okay, after dealing with the Lu family, I'll go into seclusion in peace. He waved his hand and left the castle with Wolf King. Soon, the mansion lord also sent a message to Qin Feiyang. He said that old monster Lu went to urge the marriage again, and he couldn't delay it for much longer, so he asked Qin Feiyang to hurry up. Qin Feiyang comforted him, then put away the image crystal, and walked out of the alchemy room. Have you heard? Not long ago, Qin Feiyang and Ruffian Wolf went to the Lu family and made a scene again. Really? It's absolutely true. I heard that the Lu family's 7-star War Emperor, 6-star War Emperor, and 5-star War Emperor were all wiped out. Even the Grand Elder and Second Elder were crippled by Ruffian Wolf, and their savings were also taken away. Then didn't the Lu family suffer a heavy loss? Aren't you talking nonsense? The Lu family is now at the end of their rope. Those 2 bastards are fierce, aren't they? Outside, the disciples of the Pillfire Palace gathered in 2s and 3s, discussing. But when the stone door of alchemy room number 2 opened, and Qin Feiyang and Wolf King walked out, everyone fell silent. What are you talking about? Let us hear it too. The Wolf King chuckled. Immediately, everyone's pupils shrank, and they all turned around and ran into their respective alchemy rooms, closing the stone door tightly. Wolf King was stunned and said angrily, "Damn, am I that scary? If not, would they run away?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and walked toward alchemy room number 4. But before he walked over, the stone door of alchemy room number 1 suddenly opened. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. The mysterious expert finally showed up. He stopped and locked his gaze on alchemy room number 1. However, the person who walked out was Lu Xingqian. Qin Feiyang frowned. Why was he in alchemy room number 1? Was Lu Xingqian close to the owner of alchemy room number 1? Lu Xingqian walked out, and was stunned when he saw Qin Feiyang. But then, his eyes turned cold. You guys are really powerful. How dare you barge into the Lu family? This Lu really wants to know who gave you the guts to do this. He walked toward Qin Feiyang and Wolf King while speaking coldly. Wolf King joked. Does the Lu family need to borrow guts from others? Only? Lu Xingqian's eyes turned cold and he sneered. Continue being arrogant. That's for sure. How does it feel to run around naked? Do you want to run around naked again? Wolf King joked. Lu Xingqian's body trembled, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. But in the end he endured it. Let's wait and see. He sneered and jumped down. He landed at the bottom of the patio and rushed outside. Wolf King urged, follow him. What's the hurry? If we follow too closely he'll notice. Qin Feiyang whispered and followed him unhurriedly. After leaving the Pillfire Palace, Lu Xingqian flew toward the Cultivation Palace. Qin Feiyang didn't continue to follow him because it was too obvious. He swooped down with Wolf King and landed in the dense forest below the mountain stream. He waited quietly. Soon, Lu Xingqian walked out of the Cultivation Palace with a gloomy expression. He looked very irritated. After looking around, Lu Xingqian took to the air again and flew south. In the dense forest, Wolf King looked at Lu Xingqian and asked in confusion, "What's he doing running around?" "Who knows?" Qin Feiyang shrugged and retracted his aura. He shuttled through the dense forest. A moment later, Lu Xingqian landed on a mountain peak. On the mountain peak, there were many stones and ancient trees. Lu Xingqian walked to the edge of the cliff. He lowered his head and looked at the forest below. His brows were tightly knitted. Not long after, Qin Feiyang also climbed up the mountain peak and hid behind a big tree. Wolf King was still lying on his shoulder. He sent a voice transmission. Is he waiting for someone? He should be waiting for the 3 elders. Qin Feiyang thought. Whoosh. As expected. After dozens of breaths, a figure flew through the air and landed beside Lu Xingqian. If it wasn't Shiming, who else could it be? Shiming looked around and asked, "Did you look for the 2 kings?" Lu Xingqian nodded. 2 kings? Qin Feiyang frowned. Could the owner of Alchemy Room 1 be one of the 2 kings of the Inner Palace? Shiming asked. What's the result? Lu Xingqian shook his head. No matter what I said, no matter what conditions I offered, they were not willing to help. I knew it would be like this. Qin Feiyang is like the sun in the sky now. Plus, he can refine potential pills. No one is willing to offend him for our Lu family. But now our Lu family is in a very bad situation. The ancestor has given a death order. You must deal with Ren Wushuang as soon as possible, Shiming said. Deal with Ren Wushuang? Qin Feiyang was stunned. His gaze suddenly turned cold. He took out an image crystal and silently recorded this scene. Lu Xingqian was also slightly taken aback. He asked doubtfully, "Didn't the ancestor rush the marriage? What did the mansion lord say?" Shiming said, "The mansion lord has been delaying it. Although he didn't say it explicitly, we can already see that he doesn't approve of this marriage." He doesn't approve. Lu Xingqian's body trembled. He asked, "Then how should I deal with Ren Wushuang?" The ancestor said that desperate times call for desperate measures. As long as you and Ren Wushuang do it, the mansion lord will have to agree even if he doesn't. When that happens, not only will we solve the current problem, but our Lu family status in the capital will also rise to a higher level. Shiming sneered. Lu Xingqian frowned. This is for you. Make a good plan. Remember, you must not fail. Because if you fail, our Lu family will be doomed eternally. Chapter 440. Lu Xingqian watched Shiming leave and opened the jade box. Inside lay a red elixir. Qin Feiyang poked his head out, and when he saw the elixir his eyes trembled. What elixir? Wolf King sent a telepathic message. Aphrodisiac elixir. Qin Feiyang turned around and leaned against the tree, his eyes flashing with a sharp light. What's an aphrodisiac elixir? Wolf King was confused. Qin Feiyang said, "It stimulates a person's lust and makes them uncontrollably yearn for it." What? Are they going to give Ren Wushuang an aphrodisiac elixir? Wolf King was bewildered. Isn't it obvious? Qin Feiyang sneered. Damn it, I'm going to kill him now. Wolf King was furious. Don't be rash. Qin Feiyang grabbed it and turned to look at Lu Xingqian. Lu Xingqian grabbed the jade box and looked up at the sky, his eyes burning with anger. I alone am enough in the spiritual state. Why does there have to be another Qin Feiyang? He stood there muttering to himself. His hands tightly clenched together, and his face gradually twisted. If not for Qin Feiyang's sudden appearance, none of this would have happened. The Lu family would not have ended up in this state. Why, in the end? Lu Xingqian roared like a madman, his long hair fluttering in the wind, and his eyes flashing with a shocking cold light. Qin Feiyang looked at Lu Xingqian's back and murderous intent surged in his heart. Swoosh. At this moment, another black figure broke through the air and arrived. It was the woman in black who confronted Ren Wushuang when Lu Xingqian was running naked. Lu Xingqian raised his eyebrows and put the jade box away. He turned to look at the woman in black and frowned. What are you doing here? Ren Wushuang obviously doesn't want to marry you. Why do you have to force him? The woman in black said faintly. This is my business. It has nothing to do with you. Lu Xingqian said coldly and turned to leave. Lu Xingqian, stop being so stubborn. Ren Wushuang said it himself. You only have fame and fortune in your eyes, and women are just tools. She doesn't like you at all. No matter what you say, she won't marry you. You'd better give up now. The black-clothed woman said angrily. Lu Xingqian's body stiffened. He turned to look at the woman in black and asked, did she really say that? The woman in black nodded. Damn it. Lu Xingqian cursed in his heart. His eyes flashed and fell in front of the woman in black. He sighed. Shinmei, I've known about your feelings for a long time. What do you know? Don't you only have Ren Wushuang in your eyes? The woman in black sneered. Lu Xingqian nodded. Yes, I neglected you in the past. I apologize. To be honest, I also like you very much. Like me. The woman in black trembled and looked at Lu Xingqian in disbelief. What's going on? Qin Feiyang was a little confused. Nonsense, of course there's adultery. Wolf King smiled slyly. Adultery? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. This bastard with a human face but a beast's heart. He hasn't married my cheap sister yet, but he's already doing this. If they get married, won't he be even more unscrupulous? Lu Xingqian didn't notice the man and wolf hiding in the dark at all. He took 2 more steps forward and almost pressed his body against Shen Mei's. The atmosphere suddenly became ambiguous. What's going to happen next? I'm really looking forward to it. Wolf King smiled slyly. This saves a lot of trouble. Qin Feiyang muttered. Fatso's evil plan was to find a few women to lie with Lu Xingqian. In this way, not only could he catch them in bed, but he could also make the rumors come true. At that time, Lu Xingqian would have no room to turn over. He thought it would be very troublesome, but he didn't expect that Lu Xingqian and the woman in black would make such a scene. Even if nothing happened now, as long as the recorded video was exposed to the world, Lu Xingqian's reputation would be tarnished. He looked at Shen Mei again. She was a little flustered at the moment. She did like Lu Xingqian for a long time. But Lu Xingqian's change was too sudden. She couldn't get used to it. Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed. He stretched out his hands and directly hugged Shen Mei in his arms. Shen Mei instinctively struggled. Lu Xingqian said softly, I really like you. Don't reject me, okay? That one sentence made Shen Mei lose her composure. I pursued Ren Wushuang only because of her identity and status. I don't have any feelings for her. But I'm sincere to you. It's just that I was afraid of being found out by Ren Wushuang, so I didn't dare to show it. Lu Xingqian continued. Hearing this, Shen Mei stopped struggling. She looked up at Lu Xingqian and asked, Really? Lu Xingqian said, I swear to God. Shen Mei's face immediately lit up with a joyful smile as she said, Then are you prepared to give up on her and marry me? Marry? Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed with disdain. He shook his head and said, I can't give her up yet. Why? Shen Mei pushed Lu Xingqian away with both hands. I have my difficulties. Lu Xingqian sighed deeply. What difficulties? Shen Mei frowned and asked. Lu Xingqian pondered for a moment and sighed. You know the current situation of the Lu family. If I don't marry Ren Wushuang, Zhenbao Pavilion won't lift the ban. Shen Mei fell silent. Lu Xingqian said again, Mayor, you're a smart person. You should know that if we get married, not only will it not solve the problem, but it will also implicate you and your family. Don't say any more. Just pretend I've never been here. Shen Mei's eyes were a little wet. She turned to leave. Wait. Lu Xingqian hurriedly grabbed her and said, Listen to me, okay? Is there a need? Shen Mei looked at him coldly. Lu Xingqian said, I must get Ren Wushuang. Can you help me? Bastard. Shen Mei immediately slapped Lu Xingqian's face. Good hit. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King secretly cheered. Lu Xingqian was stunned. I admit that I like you, but I'm not stupid enough to help you do this kind of thing. I also want to ask you, don't you feel ashamed to let a woman who likes you help you get another woman? Shen Mei shouted angrily. After being shouted at by Shen Mei, Lu Xingqian's eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. But the smile on his face remained. Lu Xingqian said, You're right. I'm a bastard. But only by doing this can I bring you happiness in the future. Shen Mei was stunned and asked in confusion, What do you mean? Lu Xingqian said, If the ban on Zhenbao Pavilion is not lifted, you're destined to live a life of hardship with me. Shen Mei said, I don't care. You don't care, but I care. I, Lu Xingqian, am 7 feet tall. How can I let the woman I love suffer with me? When Ren Wushuang and I get married, Zhenbao Pavilion will definitely lift the ban immediately. When the time comes, I'll officially marry you and bring you to the Lu family. What do you think? Lu Xingqian grabbed Shen Mei's shoulders and asked in a low voice. This? Shen Mei was a little uncertain. Wolf King looked at him with disdain and said telepathically, Although this bastard is scum, he's quite good at dealing with women. Little Qinzi, you should learn from him. Get lost. Qin Feiyang secretly shouted and glared at it fiercely. Are you with Ren Wushuang? Don't worry. When we get married, I'll have the final say. If I want to marry you, she won't dare to say no. Lu Xingqian reassured Shen Mei again. Shen Mei was silent for a while and asked, How do you want to deal with her? Stupid woman. Qin Feiyang cursed in his heart. Even an idiot would be able to tell that Lu Xingchen's words were nothing but flowery words. Xinmei actually believed him? Sure enough, the IQ of a woman in love was worrying. Lu Xingchen was also secretly overjoyed. He swept his gaze around, took out the jade box from his bosom, and said in a low voice, "Let's find an opportunity to let her consume this medicinal pill." Xinmei took the jade box and opened it. She was shocked and said, "Aren't you afraid of angering the master?" "What's there to be afraid of? When she becomes my woman, what can the master do to me?" Lu Xingchen sneered. "You're crazy. I can't do such a thing." Xinmei shook her head. Lu Xingchen's expression changed. He hurriedly hugged Xinmei and comforted her. "Mayor, this concerns our future happiness. You must help me." Xinmei was once again flustered. Lu Xingchen's eyes flashed. He lowered his head and kissed Xinmei. When their lips touched, Xinmei melted in an instant. "Damn, do we have to put on a porn show?" Wolf King's eyes widened. "It's not suitable for children." Qin Feiyang reached out and covered its eyes. A moment later, Lu Xingchen looked up and begged, "Mayor, can you help me?" Xinmei thought for a while and said, "I'll try." Lu Xingchen said, "Don't try. You must succeed." "Okay." Xinmei nodded. "Thank you." Lu Xingchen was overjoyed and said, "When you succeed, send me a message immediately." "Okay." Xinmei nodded again. "Then I'll go back first. I'll wait for your message," Lu Xingchen said gently with a smile on his face. Then he turned around and flew away. Alas! Xinmei sighed faintly. She also soared into the sky and flew toward the cultivation palace. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King also walked out. The show is finally about to begin. The Wolf King chuckled. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. He took out the image crystal and quickly became excited. Very soon, Ren Wushuang's shadow appeared. "Oh, isn't this the legendary Qin Feiyang? Why did you suddenly think of sending me a message?" Immediately, Ren Wushuang said in a strange tone. Qin Feiyang laughed bitterly and said, "Sis, I don't have time to talk nonsense now. There's something I want to ask you. Who is Xinmei?" Ren Wushuang frowned and said, "Why are you asking about her?" "Don't ask yet, tell me quickly," Qin Feiyang urged. "She is the eldest daughter of the Shen family in the West City. She is quite talented and is now a 5-star war emperor. When we were young, we often played together." "Oh right, her grandfather is also the city lord of the West City," Ren Wushuang said. "His background is that big." Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other. Chapter 441. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered slightly. He looked up at Ren Wushuang and said, "Give me your current coordinates." When Ren Wushuang gave the coordinates to Qin Feiyang opened the transmission door and appeared in a cultivation room with Wolf King. The cultivation room was only 23 meters long and had no decorations. There was only a shabby futon. It was very simple, but it was very clean. Ren Wushuang was sitting on the futon at the moment. Wolf King glanced around and said in surprise, "Little girl Ren, you cultivate in such a place?" "Can't I?" Ren Wushuang said expressionlessly. Wolf King said, "Okay, but compared with little Qin Zi's alchemy room, yours is simply a dog's kennel." "Dog's kennel?" Ren Wushuang suddenly stood up, stretched out her white hand, grabbed Wolf King's face and said angrily, "Are you saying I'm a dog?" No, you misunderstood. "It hurts, let go," Wolf King wailed. "Humph." Ren Wushuang snorted coldly, glanced at Qin Feiyang, and said angrily, "You haven't come to see me after coming back for so long. What do you mean?" "I'm too busy." Qin Feiyang smiled embarrassedly. Yes, we wanted to see you as soon as possible, but there were too many things to do and we couldn't leave." Wolf King nodded repeatedly. "Is that so?" Ren Wushuang pursed her lips with a sneer. It was as if she was saying, "Do you think I'm a fool?" Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other, full of helplessness. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's face became extremely serious and he said, "Sister, don't make trouble. We have business to do now. What business? Ren Wuxia was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, let go of the white-eyed wolf first. Ren Wuxia suspiciously glanced at the man and the wolf before finally releasing his evil claws. Qin Feiyang said, sister, send a message to your grandfather right now. What are you trying to do? Ren Wuxia frowned. The Wolf King impatiently waved its paw and said, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and send the message. Say it again. Ren Wuxia immediately scowled. Wolf King shrunk his neck and coldly snorted. This matter is related to you. If you don't do it, you'll definitely regret it. Ren Wuxia raised his eyebrows and activated the image crystal. A short while later, an ancient figure appeared out of nowhere. The mansion master teased. Girl, what kind of wind is blowing today? You actually took the initiative to look for this old man? Ren Wuxia said. It's not me who's looking for you, it's Qin Feiyang and Ruffian Wolf. Qin Feiyang took Wolf King and walked to Ren Wuxia's side. Seeing the man and the wolf, the mansion master's eyes suddenly lit up, and he asked in surprise, is it done? Of course. Wolf King chuckled. Good. You're in the inner hall, right? This old man will go find you right away. The mansion master was overjoyed. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, Old master, don't worry. There's one more thing that I need you to do. Say it quickly. The mansion master was a little impatient. Qin Feiyang said, inform the Shen family's ancestor and the Lu family's ancestor to come together. Is this related to the Shen family? The mansion master was puzzled. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, it has a lot to do with them. Okay, this old man will call them now. After the mansion master finished speaking, the shadow quickly dissipated. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then looked at Wolf King and said, go and invite Lu Xingqian and Shiming. Okay. Wolf King nodded. He opened the portal and rushed in without looking back. Ren Wuxia asked suspiciously, Feiyang, can you tell me what you're doing? Qin Feiyang was about to speak. Dong dong. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. They came so fast. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the stone door and muttered to himself. What's so fast? Ren Wuxia was stunned and asked, do you know who it is? Qin Feiyang said, if I'm not wrong, it should be Xin Mei. Ha! Ren Wuxia became more and more puzzled and walked up to open the stone door. A black figure suddenly entered his sight. Who else could it be but Xin Mei? And he got it right? Ren Wuxia muttered, looked at Xin Mei and said lightly, what's the matter? I want to talk to you. Xin Mei squeezed out a very reluctant smile. Then come in. Ren Wuxia stepped aside and his field of vision suddenly widened. When she saw Qin Feiyang, Xin Mei's face suddenly showed a trace of surprise and said, why are you here? Qin Feiyang just smiled faintly. Xin Mei frowned imperceptibly, turned to look at Ren Wuxia, and said with a smile, since you have guests, I'll come to you another day. Okay. Ren Wuxia nodded. Xin Mei turned to leave. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, Senior sister Xin Mei, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Come in and have a chat. No need. Xin Mei said without turning her head. Qin Feiyang took a step forward, stood in front of Xin Mei and said lightly, I'm afraid it's not up to you to stay. What do you mean? Xin Mei raised her eyebrows. Please. Qin Feiyang pointed to the cultivation room. Don't be too presumptuous. Xin Mei shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang said, if you're not afraid, the matter between you and Lu Xingqian will be known by everyone. You can speak louder. Xin Mei's pupils suddenly shrank. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, Senior sister Xin, please. Xin Mei took a deep look at Qin Feiyang, turned and walked into the cultivation room. Qin Feiyang also entered the cultivation room. But when he passed by Ren Wuxia whispered, Feiyang, what's going on? Qin Feiyang just smiled mysteriously, looked at Xin Mei and sighed. Why are you so stupid? What? Xin Mei was puzzled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, you're still playing dumb. Can't you see that Lu Xingqian is just using you? Xin Mei said in surprise. You, Qin Feiyang said. Are you going to ask me how I know? Let me tell you, I know everything. And I also know your purpose of coming to Renwushuang. That's impossible. Shinmei shook her head with a look of disbelief. You're really a sad woman. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. Whoosh! At this moment, 3 figures appeared out of thin air. 2 of them were the mansion master and old monster Lu. The other person was also an old man. He had white hair and a white beard, and he was also wearing a white robe. He was like an enlightened master, exuding an otherworldly aura. When Shenmei saw the 3 of them, she couldn't help but be stunned. Old monster Lu and the white-haired old man were also a little stunned when they saw Qin Feiyang, and the other 2 in the cultivation room. Greetings, mansion master. Greetings, city lord Lu. After Shenmei came back to her senses, she hurriedly bowed. Yes. The mansion master nodded and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang, as if asking why Shenmei was also here. Qin Feiyang cast a reassuring look and said with a smile, Now let's wait for the main character to appear. A cold light flashed in old monster Lu's eyes. He turned to look at the mansion master and frowned. My lord, did you call me an old Shin here just to see him behave atrociously here? Old monster Lu, why are you in such a hurry? Did you do something wrong? Are you afraid? Qin Feiyang teased. What a joke. This old man is upright and upright. What's there to be afraid of? Old monster Lu sneered. Since you're not afraid, don't be anxious. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and looked at the white-haired old man. He cupped his hands and said, Senior, you should be Shenmei's grandfather, the city lord of West City. The white-haired old man nodded and said with a smile, Hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. Little brother, you are indeed impressive, a dragon among men. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Senior, you flatter me. I took the liberty to invite you here, please forgive me. Old monster Lu and the white-haired old man were stunned and looked at the mansion master in confusion. That's right. Qin Feiyang asked you to come. The mansion master nodded. Old monster Lu's eyes suddenly flickered. The white-haired old man's eyes were also full of doubts. At the same time, a trace of panic crept into Shenmei's eyes. She walked to Qin Feiyang and whispered, Qin Feiyang, I beg you, don't tell the mansion master and the others about this. Why? Is it for yourself or Lu Xingqian? Qin Feiyang frowned. Shenmei wanted to say something but stopped. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, Don't continue to be stupid, it won't do you any good. How powerful were the mansion master, and the other 2? Even though the 2 of them were very quiet, they were still heard by them. The white-haired old man looked at Shenmei and frowned. Girl, what's going on? Shenmei panicked and said, Grandfather, At this time, Wolf King's shout sounded from outside. The protagonist has arrived. Everyone, hurry up and welcome him. Before his voice faded, Shi Ming and Lu Xingqian appeared at the door of the cultivation room. Why are there so many people? Seeing the mansion master and Qin Feiyang in the cultivation room, the 2 of them were shocked. At the same time, when old monster Lu saw the 2 of them, an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go in. Wolf King also walked over and shouted. Lu Xingqian and old monster Lu looked at each other and hurriedly walked into the cultivation room. They bowed and said, Greetings, mansion master, greetings, city lord Shen. The mansion master nodded indifferently. Qin Feiyang shouted, White-eyed wolf, close the door. All right. Wolf King waved his claws, and the stone door closed with a bang. The sound of the stone door closing caused Lu Xingqian's body to tremble as he hurriedly looked at Shenmei. However, Shenmei lowered her head and did not look at him. Did she betray me? Lu Xingqian was bewildered. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone and said indifferently, Since everyone is here, let's settle the first matter. He looked at Lu Xingqian and said, What you asked Shenmei to do before, did you say it yourself, or do you want me to say it for you? Sure enough, she betrayed me. Lu Xingqian's mind trembled as he stared at Shenmei and roared, You bitch, I shouldn't have believed you. What? Apart from Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King, everyone had a stupefied expression. Shenmei came back to her senses and looked up at Lu Xingqian. She said angrily, What do you mean? Lu Xingchen said ferociously. I trusted you so much, but you still betrayed me. Let me tell you, if I don't have a good life, you won't either. You actually think that I betrayed you? Shen Mei looked at him in disbelief. If you didn't say it, how would Qin Feiyang know? Lu Xingchen roared. Shen Mei suddenly felt wronged and shed tears. Now do you see his true colors? From the beginning to the end, he was using you. Those sweet words he said to you before were purely to deceive you. Qin Feiyang shook his head. I was blind. Chapter 442. Ren Wuxuang supported Shen Mei and looked at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. She frowned and asked, what exactly is going on? Miss Ren, do you know why Shen Mei came to find you? She listened to Lu Xingchen's slanderous words and wanted to force you to take the aphrodisiac pill. Wolf King said. What? Ren Wuxuang's delicate body trembled. The mansion master and the white-haired old man also suddenly changed. Old Monster Lu and Shiming looked at Lu Xingchen at the same time. Bastard! You can't even handle such a small matter. What are you doing? Old Monster Lu shouted through voice transmission. Lu Xingchen's body trembled as he looked at Old Monster Lu for help. Trash! Old Monster Lu cursed in his heart. His eyes flashed slightly as he sent a voice transmission to Lu Xingchen. Did Qin Feiyang see it with your own eyes? Lu Xingchen shook his head slightly. That's easy. Push all the blame to Shen Mei. Old Monster Lu secretly instructed. Following that, he aggressively walked towards Lu Xingchen. As he approached, he immediately slapped Lu Xingchen's face and shouted, How dare you do such a thing? How dare you? Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were stunned. The mansion master and the others also looked at Old Monster Lu and Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen said with a plop, Ancestor, this matter is not my fault. Still quibbling. Old Monster Lu was furious and raised his hand to slap him again. Bang! Lu Xingchen was sent flying on the spot and crashed into the wall behind him. Blood spurted out of his mouth continuously. Bang bang bang. Old Monster Lu angrily walked over and punched and kicked Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen howled miserably. Are they acting? Wolf King transmitted his voice. If it's not acting, then what is it? Qin Feiyang sneered. It must have been hard on Lu Xingchen to act so realistically. Wolf King looked at Lu Xingchen sympathetically. Who would believe it if it wasn't more realistic? If I'm not wrong, Lu Xingchen will definitely push the blame onto Shen Mei. Qin Feiyang thought. Wolf King said. Then we might as well take out the evidence and make him speechless. There's no rush. Let them quibble first. The more they quibble, the angrier Mannerhead and Old Monster Shen will be when the truth is revealed. This time, I'm going to wipe out the Lu clan. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice, a cold light flashing in the depths of his eyes. Alright, let's watch the show first. Wolf King chuckled. Watching Lu Xingchen get beaten up was also a form of enjoyment. A moment later, Old Monster Lu seemed to be tired and finally stopped. Then he looked at Lu Xingchen. He was paralyzed on the ground. His nose was bruised and his eyes were swollen, blood was flowing, and his face was full of pain. Get up immediately and tell the Manor Head the ins and outs of this matter in detail. If you hide anything or lie, I'll kill you on the spot. Old Monster Lu retreated to the Manor Head's side and shouted at Lu Xingchen. Lu Xingchen shuddered and got up in a sorry state. He knelt on the ground and said, Manor Head, Shen Mei is the mastermind of this matter. What did you say? Shen Mei's eyes widened in anger. Isn't it? You're jealous of Ren Wuxuang's talent, jealous of her talent, so you asked me to cooperate with you to murder her. As long as she loses her innocence, she won't have the face to see anyone in the future, and no one will compete with you for fame and fortune. Shen Mei, you really have a vicious heart. You're obviously the mastermind, but now you're actually beating me up and framing me. Where's your conscience? Lu Xingchen let out a hysterical roar. Then, he rolled and crawled in front of the Manor Head and said, Grandpa Ren, please believe me. I was only bewitched by her for a moment. I know I was wrong. I will definitely change. I'm the mastermind. I framed you. Shen Mei looked at Lu Xingchen with a dull expression. She had never thought that the man she had always liked was actually such a trash. The manor head frowned and glanced at Qin Feiyang from the corner of his eyes. Seeing Qin Feiyang's unperturbed appearance, it was as if he had eaten a calming pill. Then, the manor head lowered his head to look at Lu Xingqian and asked, "This old man will give you another chance. Is the truth really as you said?" "Yes." Lu Xingqian nodded. Old monster Lu, who was beside him, said angrily, "Even if you were bewitched by her, you still deserve to be punished." Lu Xingqian hurriedly said, "Ancestor, I was wrong. I'm willing to accept any punishment." "Humph." Old monster Lu snorted coldly, turned to look at old monster Shen and sighed. "Old Shen, you're so virtuous. How did you teach such a granddaughter?" Old monster Shen's face darkened, and he went up to slap Shen Mei, but a hand suddenly appeared and grabbed his wrist. Everyone present looked at the hand. The owner of the hand was Qin Feiyang. Shi Ming said angrily, "Qin Feiyang, City Lord Shen is teaching his granddaughter a lesson. Why are you stopping him? Aren't you being too nosy? You'd better shut up." Qin Feiyang looked at him coldly, then looked at old monster Shen and said with a smile, "You can't slap her." "Why?" Old monster Shen frowned. "Because she's already very hurt. If you slap her again, I'm afraid she'll do something stupid," Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, a trace of suspicion crept into old monster Shen's eyes. Why did Qin Feiyang's tone sound as if there was something fishy about this? He looked at Shen Mei and saw that Shen Mei's face was filled with sadness and pain. At that moment, he realized that he might have really wronged this granddaughter. He put down his arm and looked at Qin Feiyang again with a trace of help in his eyes. From the beginning until now, this man had been calm and unruffled. He should have some evidence in his hands. Qin Feiyang smiled at old monster Shen, looked at old monster Lu and Lu Xingqian and said, "Are you done acting? If not, then continue acting." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Old monster Lu shouted. "Grandpa Ren, you watch me grow up. You know what kind of person I am. I would never dare to lie in front of you. This Qin Feiyang has always disliked me. That's why he's speaking up for Shen Mei now. They might even be in cahoots to frame me and get rid of me. Grandpa Ren, please investigate," Lu Xingqian also said. But whether it was Lu Xingqian or old monster Lu, they all began to feel nervous, because Qin Feiyang was too calm. "Wonderful, wonderful. You guys wait a moment. I'll get a small stool and a jar of good wine. I'll watch your performance slowly." After Wolf King finished speaking, he turned to Ren Wushuang and said, "Miss Ren, do you have a stool and wine?" "No." Ren Wushuang glared at him. At this time, he was still in the mood to mess around. He really deserved a beating. "I have it here." Old monster Shen waved his hand, and a chair and a jar of aged wine appeared in front of Wolf King out of thin air. "Thank you." Wolf King's eyes lit up. He tore open the seal on the wine jar, and a strong aroma of wine immediately wafted out. Just by smelling the aroma of the wine, he felt like he was floating in the air. Immediately, Wolf King's eyes lit up, and his body became 1 meter long. He hugged the wine jar, and lay down on the chair. "It's soft in the mouth and fragrant in the mouth. Good wine, it's really good wine." He raised his head and took a sip. He couldn't help but exclaim. Then he looked at Lu Xingqian and old monster Lu and said, "You can continue acting." "Mansion master, he's too presumptuous." "And old Shen, what do you mean by this? If he wants wine, you give it to him. If he wants your life, are you going to give it to him?" Old monster Lu was so angry that he went crazy. The mansion master didn't say anything. Old monster Shen glanced at old monster Lu and said, "If you can return my granddaughter's innocence, I'm willing to give up my life." Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. It seemed that old monster Shen loved Shen Mei very much. Old monster Lu frowned and said angrily, "Do you mean that Lu Xingqian is lying?" Old monster Shen said indifferently, "I don't know if he's lying or not, but I know that we can't listen to a person's one-sided words." Old monster Lu said, "Okay, now show me the evidence to prove that Lu Xingqian is lying to everyone." Wolf King said through voice transmission, "Little Qinzi, it's time to show the evidence, isn't it?" "It's time." Qin Feiyang nodded, glanced at the crowd, and said, Mansion Master Old Senior Shin. In fact, the mastermind behind this matter is Old Monster Lu. What? The two of them trembled and looked at Old Monster Lu gloomily. Damn it! Does he really have evidence in his hands? Old Monster Lu was shocked, and sent a voice transmission to Lu Xingqian. Did Qin Feiyang see it with his own eyes? According to Qin Feiyang's previous methods, if he saw it with his own eyes, he would definitely record it with an image crystal. Lu Xingqian shook his head without a trace, his eyes firm. It seems that this little bastard is bluffing us and making us give ourselves away. Old Monster Lu thought to himself, and a sneer appeared in his old eyes. Swish. He suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Since you said that I'm the mastermind behind this, show me the evidence. If you can, I'll give you my old life. But if you can't, you and Ruffian Wolf will kill yourselves on the spot. Do you dare? Old Monster Lu shouted. That's what you said. Qin Feiyang smiled. Wolf King also smiled. The next moment, Qin Feiyang took out an image crystal and poured his battle chi into it. An image quickly appeared. In the image, Shiming and Lu Xingqian stood at the top of the mountain, and their conversation echoed in the cultivation room. How is this possible? This can't be real. As soon as Lu Xingqian saw the image, he shook his head frantically, his face full of disbelief. Shiming and Old Monster Lu also widened their eyes in anger. Swish. Old Monster Lu suddenly exploded and threw a punch at the image crystal. Boom. But at this moment, a terrifying pressure emerged and enveloped the entire room. Old Monster Lu, Lu Xingqian, and Shiming were all imprisoned. Let's talk after watching it. The Mansion Master glanced at Old Monster Lu, then raised his head to continue watching the image. Old Monster Lu's heart sank to the bottom. He glared angrily at Lu Xingqian and roared through sound transmission. You useless piece of trash, I'll kill you later. Lu Xingqian's eyes suddenly filled with deep despair. Suddenly, he stared at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, his eyes full of resentment. Why was it always these two bastards who ruined his good deeds? He was unwilling. He was furious. He wanted nothing more than to tear Qin Feiyang and Wolf King to pieces. Chapter 443. A bone-piercing murderous intent filled the entire cultivation room. The images in the void kept flashing. The conversation fell clearly into everyone's ears. When he saw Shiming give the aphrodisiac pill to Lu Xingqian, the Mansion Master's eyes darkened. When he saw Lu Xingqian deceiving Shen Mei with sweet words to murder Ren Wuxuang, Old Weirdo Shen's face also turned cold. When the images ended, the Mansion Master and Old Weirdo Shen's eyes were filled with a shocking murderous intent. The Lu family is really vicious. Ren Wuxuang glanced at Lu Xingqian and the other two, his face as cold as ice. Lu Xingqian's body trembled, and he hurriedly said, Wuxuang. Shut up, don't talk to me again. Ren Wuxuang shouted coldly, and looked at Lu Xingqian with disgust. He then lowered his head to look at Shen Mei and sighed. Didn't I tell you not to provoke him? Why didn't you listen? Wuxuang, I'm sorry. Shen Mei threw herself into Ren Wuxuang's arms and cried bitterly. Her face was pale, and her delicate body was trembling. Sigh. Ren Wuxuang sighed deeply and patted her shoulder, comforting her. It's okay, it's all over. I won't blame you. Looking at Shen Mei's sad appearance, Old Weirdo Shen's anger was uncontrollable. What else do you have to say? I really didn't expect you to be so despicable to do such a terrible thing. He suddenly turned his head and roared at Old Weirdo Lu. The most infuriating thing was, the dignified East City governor dared not to admit what he did, and pushed all the blame to his granddaughter. If Qin Feiyang did not have evidence, his granddaughter would not be able to clear her name even if she jumped into the Yellow River. Old Weirdo Lu's body trembled. He hurriedly looked at the Mansion Master and begged, Sir, I know I was wrong. Please spare my life for the sake of all the years I've served you. However, the manor had ignored him. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, I have a question. Why is Shiming helping the Lu clan? Qin Feiyang said, because he's not Shiming at all. Wolf King nodded and said, yes, according to my brother and little Qin Zi's investigation, he should be the third elder of the Lu family in disguise. What? Everyone present trembled both physically and mentally. But there was a difference. Mansion Master, old eccentric Shun, Ren Wuxuang, and Shen Mei were all shocked. But old monster Lu Xingqian, and Shiming were terrified. Old weirdo Shen stepped forward and grabbed Shiming's chin. He took out a facial restoration pill and stuffed it into Shiming's mouth. Immediately, Shiming's appearance began to change. Soon, a black-haired old man appeared in front of everyone. It really is you. How dare you impersonate the law-enforcing elder of the Divine Temple? Your Lu clan is really bold. Old Monster Shen shouted angrily. Mannerhead, spare my life. Old Monster Lu and the other two were terrified. Their hatred for Qin Feiyang and Wolf King had undoubtedly risen to another level. Spare your life. After making such a big mistake, if this old man still spares you, what will the world think of this old man? The Mansion Master said angrily. Old Monster Lu begged. This subordinate will definitely change in the future. The Mansion Master let out a long breath and asked, where is the real Shiming? What is your purpose for making the third elder look like Shiming? Old Monster Lu stammered. The Mansion Master looked at Qin Feiyang again. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, let him tell you this himself. Actually, he didn't know either. But as long as he pretended to know, old Monster Lu would definitely confess without being pressed. The Mansion Master looked at old Monster Lu and shouted, speak quickly. Shiming is already dead. I asked the third elder to disguise himself as him and sneak into the Divine Temple too. Old Monster Lu said this and did not continue, his face full of fear. Qin Feiyang was deep in thought. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Old Monster Lu, if you don't want to say it, I'll help you. You just want to plant a spy in the Divine Temple to take care of your Lu family's disciples and eliminate your dissidents at the same time. The most important point is to disguise yourself as Shiming and have the chance to become the martial arts hall master in the future. At that time, the entire Divine Temple can be said to be under the control of your Lu family. Am I wrong? Qin Feiyang said. Shut up. Old Monster Lu roared. Looks like I guessed right. Qin Feiyang laughed. Guess. Old Monster Lu was stunned. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, that's right, I didn't investigate these things at all, but it's not difficult to guess. Bastard, you lied to me. Old Monster Lu was furious. Wolf King said disdainfully. So what if I lied to you? I finally know why Lu Xingqian and the Lu family are so stupid. It turns out that it's all hereditary. Bastard, you deserve to die. Old Monster Lu roared and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. But he was restrained by the Mansion Master's pressure and could not move at all. The one who deserves to die is you. The Mansion Master's cold voice sounded. He waved his hand, and a wave of battle chi appeared and entered Old Monster Lu's lower abdomen at lightning speed. Blood spurted out. Old Monster Lu immediately lay on the ground, holding his lower abdomen with both hands and howling in pain. Crippled. Lu Xingqian and the three elders were dumbfounded. Grandpa Ren, I was wrong, please don't kill me. Mansion Master, please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. In the future, we will be honest people. After regaining their senses, the two immediately begged for mercy. What you have done is intolerable. The Mansion Master said coldly. Two waves of battle chi cut through the sky and entered their lower abdomens. The two immediately fell to the ground and howled in pain. The Mansion Master looked down at Lu Xingqian and said, a person like you is not worthy of Shuang. This old man will now announce that your engagement is invalid. Ren Wuxuang was delighted. However, this news was like a bolt from the blue to Lu Xingqian, and it made him sink into a sea of despair. The Wolf King let out a strange cry and jumped down from Qin Feiyang's shoulder, landing in front of Lu Xingqian. He chuckled and said, you didn't expect it, did you? You would fall into our hands so soon? You bastard, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Lu Xingqian roared. Trying to scare me? Wolf King smiled disdainfully and looked up at the Mansion Master. Old man, hurry up and call a few people over. Follow me to flatten the Lu family. What? Lu Xingqian and the other two turned pale. Old Monster Lu cried out, "My lord, please leave a way out for the Lu family." Old Monster Shen cupped his hands and said, "My lord, the patriarch of the Lu family and the 4 elders must be involved in this matter. They must be punished severely." Old Monster Lu roared, "Old Dog Shen, don't go too far. This old man is just telling the truth." Old Monster Shen sneered. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "Old Senior Shen is right. The Lu family is a malignant tumor that must be removed as soon as possible." "No. My lord, I beg you, don't kill them all." Eccentric Lu begged endlessly, kowtowing repeatedly. His forehead was bleeding profusely. The mansion master glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others, then looked down at Old Monster Lu and the other two, and took out an image crystal. Soon, a middle-aged man with a square face and an eye patch appeared. It was Wang Hong. When he saw the situation in the cultivation room, a trace of bewilderment appeared in Wang Hong's eyes. He bowed and said, "Greetings, Lord Mansion Master. May I know what instructions do you have?" "Immediately gather all the commanders and head to the Lu family. Anyone above the War Emperor level, don't leave a single one alive. Eliminate them all. The rest, expel them from the state capital. At the same time, announce that Old Monster Lu is removed from his position as the East City Lord." The Mansion Master said. "Yes." Wang Hong did not ask for the reason. He respectfully replied and turned off the image crystal. Whoosh. Immediately after, he rushed out of a hall, soared into the sky and shouted, "Commanders, gather quickly." As soon as he finished speaking, one figure after another rushed into the sky. There were a total of 9 people, old and young, male and female, and their auras were unfathomable. Like Wang Hong, they were all commanders under the Mansion Master. Moreover, they were directly under the jurisdiction of the Mansion Master. Their status in the spirit state was even higher than that of the 4 city lords. Only the Mansion Master had the qualifications to order them. "Wang Hong, what's wrong? Look at your face, something's wrong." The 9 of them looked at Wang Hong in confusion. Wang Hong told them about the Mansion Master's order, and the 9 of them turned pale with fright. Wang Hong waved his hand, opened a portal, and took the lead to walk in. The other 9 looked at each other and stepped into the portal one after another. The next moment, the 10 of them descended in the sky above the Lu family. "Who is it?" An angry roar sounded. The Lu family patriarch rushed into the sky, but when he saw Wang Hong and the others, his expression changed drastically. What was going on? Why were the 10 commanders under the Mansion Master all here? Wang Hong said, "Let's do it." Boom. The bodies of the 10 people trembled, and terrifying auras burst out one after another. They were all war masters, and in an instant, the entire eastern city was alarmed. The Lu family patriarch immediately became vigilant and shouted, "What are you doing?" Wang Hong and the others were silent, and there was no expression on their faces. It was as if 10 death gods had descended to the mortal world. Boom. Wang Hong pointed his finger, and the battle chi was like a rainbow, instantly killing the Lu family patriarch. Next, the 10 of them split up and rushed downwards. Immediately, a bloody massacre unfolded. The War Emperor experts of the Lu family were constantly being killed. Screams could be heard incessantly. Fresh blood gathered into a stream. "What are you doing?" The old woman in black and the others rushed out from a great hall, their hair fluttering in the wind. "Die." Wang Hong raised his hand and waved it. The battle chi was like a waterfall, condensing into a giant hand that covered the sky, and fiercely slapped towards the 7 of them. Ah! Accompanied by a series of blood-curdling screams, the 7 of them turned into ashes on the spot. In the distance, one figure after another rose into the air, looking at Wang Hong and the others who were killing in all directions. Their eyes were filled with bewilderment. Above the treasure pavilion, Yin Yuanming and the purple-clothed woman stood side by side, their faces filled with shock. They understood the 10 commanders very well. They never made a move easily, but as long as they made a move, something big must have happened. Whiz! The purple-clothed woman's eyes flashed. She took a few steps forward and landed in the sky above the Lu family. She frowned and said, "Wang Hong, what are you doing?" Wang Hong said. This is Lord's order. Mansion Master. The purple-clothed woman's pupils constricted. How could this be? Why does the Mansion Master want to deal with my Lu family? The great clan elder and second clan elder ran out of a pavilion, roaring in grief. Boom. One of the commanders looked over, pointed his index finger in the air, and killed 2 people on the spot. Is this the end of our Lu family? At this moment, everyone in the Lu family was in a state of panic. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.